Okay, thanks. It's 7 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order. Quorum is present. The meeting is duly constituted, and first order of business is adoption of the agenda. It's a hard word to say. Can I have a motion and a second? Changes.
I would like to add a verbal under reports for a report on the Memorial Committee.
Okay, so that's under 8D4. Memorial Committee, yes. I have a few changes. I'll just run through them if I may. The first is, Peter, under 7B, the information and resource requests piece. Is that implying that the material under 8B1 is IRRs, or are we going to see IRRs separately?
No, I looked and there was essentially nothing new on the IRRs.
Okay, fine. That's what I thought you were going to say. Okay, then I would like to propose that we move the item under 8A3, that is the Curly Stewart Memorial Trust Fund Award Committee terms of reference and selection of committee members, until after we come out of closed, so we don't even bother tabling it and deferring it. So that would just go to the end. I'm going to pull the mayor's report, as is my prerogative. I propose that we move 8E, Lions Bay Fire Rescue update from Chief Oliver to the next order of business after item 4 on the agenda. That's after public delegations. We have no delegations, so it'll be quick, just so that Andrew doesn't have to stick around.
Okay.
Those were my requests. Anybody else? Peter?
In the same vein as the Curly Stewart one, the Trees, Views and Landscapes Committee one, perhaps we could do the same thing, address it when we come out of close.
Okay, so we'll defer that until after. So we'll just, Shauna, you'll move that. 8D1 will go to after item 4, after 15.
Well, after closed, right?
Yeah, after item 15 on the agenda. So we're actually going to amend the agenda.
Okay.
Okay, so with those amendments, anything further? Peter, did you have anything else in reasons for closure?
No,
You usually do.
I know, but I think I anticipated accurately this time.
Okay, good.
Let me just double check. Yeah, no, I think we're good.
Good, thanks. Okay, so I'll call the question as amended. All in favour and opposed? That carries. Next is public participation. Fred, can you? Anybody public participating? No. We'll move on straight then past public delegations. There being none, to review and approval of prior minutes. That is page 5.
No, you were going to put LBFR.
Beg your pardon. Sorry, I already forgot. So next is the amended agenda item, fire report. Chief Oliver, welcome. And we need to approve on-table items. So that should have taken place in approval of the agenda.
Sorry.
Okay.
I forgot this was sitting right under my nose.
Yeah, okay. And now this was sent round before, right?
I believe so.
Yes, it was. So we have seen it. So this is not fully on table. I'll let it slide this time.
Print out of what you've already seen. Sorry.
Okay. Andrew.
Okay. So I gave you a bit of a summary of our call-outs from January to today, or this week, last week, sorry. Calls are definitely quieter. I was just saying to Carl earlier, Mayor, that we have Britannia on the highway now. I don't know if you knew that, Fred.
No.
Yeah, so we're actually training them as well on our AutoX and how we do business. So we've already had a few of them come out on our when we do our weekend training. We've got another weekend training coming up in a couple of weeks. So I'll bring some more out, because all our new recruits It's mandatory. We do this every year, as you know. Everybody has to do the 2-day AutoX. So we're bringing those guys in, just so we talk the same language. Now we're going to be integrating on the highway. It just made sense.
So is it fair to say in that regard that we will no longer go further than Porto?
Yeah. Unless they call us.
Unless there's an assist
Yeah. If there's a
situation.
really, really nasty accident.
Yeah.
And
But
they
that would be
need-
the case anyway. We would go just about anywhere, right?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Okay.
But if it's just a regular MVA, we're going to turn at the top of Porto. You know the overpass and back again.
Yeah. And so dispatch knows that
Yes.
they now get Brunswick Beach Fire Department.
Mhm.
That's the name of the department.
House Sound, I think, isn't it? Peter?
It's House Sound.
Sound.
House
Sound.
Sound East.
Yeah.
Well, it's Britannia Beach Volunteer Fire Department, but the service area is House Sound.
House Sound. Yeah. they
So, but it's
should call it
BBVFD is the name
Yep.
of the department. Okay.
So what area are they covering on the highway?
that. So they go from, you know, that little lake at the just as you go into Squamish. You've
Yeah.
got that little lake
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
From there, all the way to Porto.
Oh, okay, good,
So it's a fair chunk.
yeah.
Well, so that probably explains some of the drop in calls that we've seen. I
Yeah,
did have-
they had a couple of big rollovers this last month.
the 2 calls to Strachan Point. What were those about?
Oh, it was a fire.
But how is it that we're going to Strachan Point?
Well, because I wasn't here. I was in England.
That's not
And
to
then-
say that's a bad thing.
It is a bad thing because we're not insured. So I called this back. I came on my phone and then I was calling dispatch from England, telling them to pull them out of there.
Hmm.
So.
So that sort of begs the question. We know that we have to talk to that's
Yeah.
the Strato, right?
Yes.
So
Well, there's Ocean Point.
Ocean Point is the
and-
Strato one.
and Strachan. So yeah,
Ocean Point is
different.
fine. It's not fine. Ocean Point have water. They have hydrants. They have water. Strachan don't have hydrant or water. They have standpipes.
Okay, well that's something. It's a slightly larger question. But so okay, good. So we were not supposed to be in Strachan.
So is that something that,
We go for medicals.
Yeah, sure.
We do go for medicals.
so is there a reciprocal agreement that's gone through, in the past, or, I mean, we cover off that, we go to Strachan because West Van can't cover it, right?
West Van, when we had the big fire there a couple of
Yeah.
years ago, West Van came. We had Vancouver.
Yeah. that's
Vancouver
right.
come, we all
Remember that, Yeah,
But then after that, I went and had a meeting with West Van, and we both jointly agreed that we shouldn't go down there because we're endangering ourselves because there literally isn't any water down there.
no, that's right.
So they would go as a mutual aid because we have a mutual aid.
Yeah.
And when I met with Chief Cook at the time, he said, you know, if we have another fire down there, what are we going to do? And I went, we're not going to go. And he
Well,
went,
just to
"Right."
recognise that's not a municipality. That's electoral area A. It's MVRD's responsibility. If they want us to service it,
They have to upgrade the water supply. And we gave them a
They have to-
report on that. They had to, you know, we gave them 2 options. They bring seawater in, just like Vancouver, and we have the big hydrants,
Yeah.
which is not good for our engines. Or they put a full new water. That would be the cheapest option. Or they upgrade their water supply. Because they have 8,000 gallons down there in a tank. Now, we blew that in about 4 minutes. So we didn't have 8,000 in there because there's no way we should have gone through that much water.
yeah, it was not full.
But you've got to remember as well, you've got the lines coming into the engine, you've got the lines going out of the engine. So there's a lot of water in that itself.
Okay, well, that is a larger issue that the CAO is sort of on top of, and we are discussing with MVRD what's to be done around Strachan.
Well, we're not at this point.
We're not currently live doing it, but we know that it's on the list. What's the situation with Ocean View?
Ocean Point.
Ocean Point, they want us. They want us to service them.
Okay.
So again,
Or some sort of cost sharing,
Yes,
stipend
yes,
slash
yes.
retainer slash something.
we don't have an issue. We don't have an issue so much going there because they do have water. They have hydrants, they have water.
Well, except that the issue really is more of a three-way conversation with West
West
Vancouver,
Bank.
because we would be putting ourselves out there, and we need coverage in the event that we have something happen here.
It's insurance. It's all
So-
down to insurance.
Now that's
So
also
that's
part
a-
of electoral area A, slightly different situation in that it's a homeowners association. The point is, we're not going to do it out of the goodness of our hearts. So
No, and they
There's
fully
discussion.
recognize
Yeah,
that,
they know.
and so it's really a case of looking at that situation a little closer in terms of their water, and what would the cost be, and what would our contingency plans be. Insurance coverages,
Yeah.
and our literally our insurance coverage as well also
Yeah.
has to be covered off. So
okay, who's leading that discussion?
Well, we've had lots of
it's-
discussions about it, but they always back out. As soon as you start talking money,
It's funny that.
it sort of dies a death.
Well, to be fair to those guys, they are interested in having up-to-date numbers as to what it would cost for us to go deliver that service. So it's simply one of the things that are on the long list. It's not at the top of our strategic
Not
goals
on the
and
top 10
priorities.
list. Yeah. Yeah.
But it is there. It is out there, and it's a case of looking at all the different factors and covering off all the issues for us. So
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm particularly interested because, if there's a retainer to be had, it goes straight to the fire department budget. It's just one thing less that the taxpayers have to pay. The timing is good now because, as you know, electoral area A, Howe Sound, is redoing their OCP. And the OCP did call for improved fire protection for the communities along there.
So I would think that there's, for Ocean Point, there's gotta be an insurance issue as well.
It's huge, Jim.
Yeah,
It's about 10 grand, 8 to 10 grand
Yeah.
to insure your home.
I'm sure, yeah. So I think that there's a benefit to be had by all in something like that, some sort of a reciprocal, or some sort of arrangement to make
Yeah.
it work down there to get coverage.
Well, it died a death many years ago. On West Band were all on board with us to do it. They had to cover their insurance because it wasn't part of the municipality. So they wanted to have some insurance. That I think in the day it was like $500,000, and they didn't want to do it.
Oh, we're in the
We
same boat
needed-
though, right? It's not our municipality either.
Yeah, but we
Are those fires?
or if they are fire sale, they're fire emails, yes.
We appreciate your time tonight.
Yeah,
You better go and read those.
yeah. Well, if it's a page, I'll soon hear it. So there was that, and and then they started to cherry pick a little bit, and then we just said, you know what, when you figure out what you want to do, then come back to us.
And so, if push comes to shove and a house is burning at Ocean Point, will we go?
They're fully sprinkled. That's another good thing. They're fully sprinkled.
But will we go or will we not go?
Oh no, we won't go. No.
Which sticks in everybody's craw, especially firefighters. So
Yeah.
we know this. And okay, so that's sort of somewhat of a sidetrack discussion, but yeah, we need to get on that at some point. Okay.
Yeah, when we went to Strachan and we saved that little community that last time, the biggest criticism I had was because I made a comment about the guy's car. Not that we saved the community, was the car.
Don't repeat it now.
No, I'm not going to. Anyway, so there's revenue to be had, obviously down there if all the numbers work out.
But it's more, I don't like to think of it as revenue. I see it as offsetting budget. So yeah, okay.
Classroom. So we've got Pam's put a ton of work in on this.
The hot tub's working.
No, it's not
Not yet.
working. No.
That's a joke for the record.
So anyway, we're using it. We've been using it now for probably a month, over a
Yeah,
month,
at
2 months.
least,
Yeah, 2 months. So there's still some deficiencies. We've got Brickco to, they've still got to finish some stuff. We still owe them 10% until they finish it. But on the whole, it's all functional. We're already training it. We've already had a classroom in there. We've done we've put on an FR program up there as well. So that's great up there now. It's really come together up there.
Sounds good.
We've still got more to do, but I think we're just getting some stuff from Home Depot, aren't we, Pam?
Yes,
Yeah.
next Wednesday.
Yeah. So, but it's much better now because we got a base now. We can train again properly.
I'll have some questions around cost there, but we'll do that in Pam's section of the Pam's report.
Okay. Burn building. The obviously we've got that in this year's budget. We just got to sort of like finish it up now, which we should be able to do quite easily. Met with Dave. We're getting the seismic engineers been through. We've got to put in our exhaust fan to draw out whereas in the old days we could just light fires. We can't do that now, which is a bit sad, but it's just part of the new regulations.
You actually have to use a smoke generator, right? You can't actually have a fire.
I can use heat, I can use gas,
Propane.
and
You can actually make a fire.
I can't make a fire, that can only be used for heat. I can do still, so I can't, so I still have to use a smoke machine. But we have to have an interconnected fan to draw out if we get into trouble, we can just press, it's like a suppression system, it's just going to go off and then pull all the smoke out. Got to get some doors, got to get some drywall going on in there now. So that's sort of the project for this summer, so we can use it in the fall. I'm also doing I've got the third quote coming for the fire hall extractor system because that's been on the agenda or been on the budget for a couple of years. So it's just tough getting people out here. But you've already got two quotes.
We've got two already.
You've got the third one coming tomorrow. Membership. Losing a lot of guys.
9.
Yeah. Lost another one this week. Which is challenging. We've got new members, but we're losing a lot, and also we're losing places for them to live.
Is that the reason we're losing them, or is
No,
it?
we're losing them because they're getting hired.
Okay.
West Band's just hired one more from us to this week. The North Shore took 4 from us. Vancouver took 2 or 3. Surrey took 1.
So I suppose that means we're doing too good a job of training, but at the same time you can't not do it.
No,
Yeah. Okay.
it's just that.
Nature of the beast.
Yeah. West Band now have got so many lines. I think since I've been doing this, 96, 97, I think we've pushed for about 120 guys into careers.
Well, I mean, that's why they come, so we know that, and that's the price we pay. Is there any sort of consideration of a finder's fee that we can charge these hiring departments, or?
No, but I think what I'm going to actually say to the guys on Wednesday, I'm going to have to say that they've got to give us a bit more, see if I can get a bit more of a commitment out of them, say that they can't go on interviews for the first year or something. I was going to talk to Peter about that to see if we could do that.
Or maybe a deposit, which they get back after they've fulfilled the obligation. Not that they have money to deposit, of course.
Yeah, I was going to say they don't have
Well,
much money.
they're losing a lot of people too. I mean, they're losing people to retirement right now all the time.
Yeah,
Quite on a very regular basis, and that's
Yeah.
probably one of the biggest factors.
I
Plus,
think it is.
any expansion, because the construction stuff that's going on, the municipalities are growing like crazy in the Lower Mainland, and that's part of it as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, but that's their problem. I'm talking about our problem, which is that we're training fighters and then they're going to well-paid jobs.
Yeah,
We're training Vancouver's firefighters for free.
you can't really, shouldn't say can't, but extremely difficult to prevent people from pursuing employment or work, you know,
Sure, yeah, I mean,
contract. You can't do that in law.
I tried to do that years ago. Yeah, we tried to do like you know, before we gave them their boots, their pants and stuff. You know, like you put some money in the kitty, and the longer you're here, you get bits back. Do you know what I mean?
no, there's labour
But
regulations.
It's hard to manage it.
I'm not saying, I don't think that the employees are the ones to pay it. I'm thinking it's the hiring departments. I don't know how you do that though. I'm getting the sense that we are being used for suckers here. You know, the Lions Bay taxpayer is willing to pay $400,000 a year to fund its fire department, and our guys are just getting hired out from underneath us. Now we know that they're not going to be here permanently. They're volunteers. We know that. They're not career firefighters in Lions Bay.
Well, they're here to do a job as well for us.
A what job?
They're here to do a job for us, and they're here to protect our community. And that's why we insist on weekends, and that's why we insist that they stay in the village. They sleep here.
And they do it. Is this a higher than normal turnover?
Yeah.
The other aspect, I think, is that you know, they come in, the career wannabes come in with, you know, firefighter 1 and 2, right?
Yeah, they come in fully trained.
Trained, and then, you know, if they have the potential to, you know, be trained up from there, officer level or things like that.
We do that.
So it's really, for something like that though, we could potentially and should talk about like an annual fee. You know, if it costs $1,500 to put somebody through that course, then maybe they pay, or they get back, you know, well, $500 a year basically. You know, they pay that or get a, you know, pay it up front and get a rebate out of it each year.
Usually, again, you've got to remember that Fred can chirp in here probably, but you know, we put them through an officer's course. Do they need an officer's course when they go for their job? No, they don't. They don't need that officer's course till at least 10 years in.
Right.
So the courses that we're pushing them through, they don't. It's not a good thing even on their portfolio. It's detrimental in some ways because you're now taking people in that are at a level higher than a lot of the firefighters are already hired, and they go on a lot more calls, a lot of nasty calls as well, especially on the highway.
So do we have we talked to anybody, any other municipalities that face a similar problem that train people anywhere in Canada? Do we know what the arrangements normally are, other than very large places? What else? There must be small areas that do training as well for fire departments for the same reason Lions Bay does it. And there's got to be some idea. Like Carl may be right. Maybe there's a training cost recovery program of some sort. I don't think that if it's working and it saves the other municipalities money, it's probably a worthwhile cause for them to support us. Or if there's some sort of reciprocal agreement, and I'm sure there has been in years past about purchasing of equipment and stuff like that, whether we get.
We've never really pursued it. We've not really pursued it. But what do they do in Whistler? Again, volunteer department in Whistler. I think their goal is they become full time in Whistler.
Yeah, it's a mixed. You know, it's a mixed department, career and volunteer, and you've got, I think, maybe 7 or 8 career right now.
Yeah.
You know, so they got two shifts or two.
And the volunteers are permanent residents of Whistler.
That's right.
They're not in transit.
No. And that's another one of our challenges is our size and the ability to keep people here, you know, who are going to live here.
We know the homeowners can't cut it.
Yeah.
They just can't.
Not the current cadre of.
No, when I first joined, we was all homeowners here, and we didn't train. We barely, you know, we had a lot of highways, of course, in those days, but we know the homeowners, for the level we have to be at today, the homeowners struggle. I've just signed up 9 or 8 to go through their exams to do the exterior firefighting. Out of those 8, 3 have done it, or in the process of doing it. The other
Lions Bay homeowner resident.
Yeah, the others have bailed on it.
Yeah.
Now it's hard for me to hold their feet to the coal, saying, "Well, you've got to do it," which, you know, because they're saying, "Well, I live here. I'm giving back to the community." You know, I don't want to be a firefighter. You know, I'm just giving you what I can give you. Which, how can I argue with that?
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah. Anyway, we're not going to solve this problem unless you have some immediate solutions.
Well, if I could just interject here, the problem is that with the cost of housing out here, you do not attract tradesmen here very much. And firefighting is very much a tradesman's job.
Yeah.
So the cost of training these people is the thing that attracts them to come out here so that they can better themselves, because without that, we wouldn't have much of a department anymore. So it very much is the cost of doing business.
It is.
It may just be the cost of what it is to supply the necessary coverage. Yeah, I mean, that may be the answer. Because, a hiring department is going to say, good luck with your invoice for training fees.
Yeah. Oh, trust me, I tell them when they phone me. Because they actually go back, and is he as good as this guy? Is he as good as that guy? You know.
I'll tell you for a fee.
But, yeah, it's a credit for us that, that we're
Yeah,
out
great.
there,
We're the
but
best fire department in Canada. That's great, but it's costing money.
Yeah,
So, I mean, the current situation, how many do we have on the roster now?
about 24.
Is that enough?
Yeah, we went down to 15, yeah, it's enough. Now, out of those 20 and a half senior, we need more senior guys. We just lost an officer this week. That's another officer I lost. So now I've got this last Sunday I brought in a lot of the senior guys and I just sat them down and I went through fireground operations, I went through how to run a scene, and because these guys are going to be the next officers. And if we get a big fire and it's in the daytime, we are going to struggle. We're going to need West Vancouver to come out, and that's what I've told them now.
That's part of the quid pro quo for us supplying you entry-level firefighters, is that we're going to need to look to you to come and help if it's a serious incident.
Our policy is if it's a confirmed structure fire, we automatically call resources, which is West Vancouver.
And what do they do about it?
West Van?
Yeah, do they come?
Oh yeah.
So they'll send
Years ago, we had a fire. The Burnaby fire chief, he lived here once, and 3 of us showed up. So all I did was I just had the engine, I put it in pump, I took the lines to the front door, and by the time I did all that, they arrived, and they just literally picked up our lines and went in.
from Burnaby.
He was the fire chief from Burnaby. He lived here,
But
the engine came from Horseshoe Bay. By the time they came from Horseshoe Bay, we were already on scene. We already had the water showing, but we couldn't go in because we didn't have enough people.
Yeah, well, those don't happen very often, but they happen when they happen. Yeah, so the department has evolved. It's
Yes.
evolved from a jeans-wearing bunch of local amateurs
Yeah.
doing their best
Yeah.
to a quasi-professional, playbook adhering. What is the situation around the playbook now?
Well, we have, the problem is because we've lost some of our key senior guys, we've got to now bring them back up to the team leader level. So at the moment, we're an exterior firefighter department. We can't go inside.
And that's, likely to be the case long term. Will be, like
So we can
this
do
in
this.
terms
So
of
we
the
can do
service
this.
we're able
Yeah.
to provide. It'll
Yeah.
be interior, exterior,
Yeah.
depending on who we've got.
But now, does the playbook not require us to pick a service level
Yeah,
and
we've been playing
Yeah, we've
around
been
with this
playing around, yeah.
interior exterior thing and trying to come up
Yeah.
with a rationale and a policy that we can put forward, and
we have to make a formal declaration? Do
No,
we
we
not?
have a policy. We have a OG that it sort of says that we're an interior fire department as long as we have a manpower to that speed.
At the day,
Yes.
on the day.
Yes.
And that's satisfactory?
Well,
Who adjudicates this? Is it EMBC?
adjudicate.
Who decides whether you're adhering to your service level, your
Would be
mandate?
the Office of the Fire Commissioner, but
Yeah.
they are not, as
They
far as
know.
I understand, that they're not pursuing departments to check up on them to see what they're doing. They've laid it out. If something happens and you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, then the chips will fall where they may.
Yeah.
So it's incumbent upon us to ensure that we lose some guys that are key. We know that we can't can't go inside till we get
I
people
tried to
trained
get,
up.
and I try to get some, which I call core members, homeowners, good homeowners, which we have a few that will get to team leader level, but they're not going to get there overnight. But they will get there.
You know, my concern is that the taxpayer is paying for a certain fire service provision, and they may or may not be getting it. So I think at some point we need to formally declare what it is, and then if it costs more money, well, then it costs more money. Whether that's professional officers or who knows.
That's right.
But so we know that, and we don't have the fire service plan nailed down yet. We know that, and we know that's coming. But okay, so that's, you know, I get the sense looking at the fire guys that this is not the end of the world.
No.
But we're not brushing it under the rug either.
No, I appreciate that. We're not. Okay, yeah.
You want to talk about that or not?
I think that's enough about that one.
I can't read your writing, sorry.
Parking.
Oh yeah, no, go ahead.
Okay, so I've got something on the parking signs for the fire hall. I don't want to change those signs if we don't have to change those signs. I know Nige started with wants a SARS up there. I don't want SARS up there. SARS don't respond to code 3. We do. So we have to have parking for when we respond to code 3. And that's we have to have that space, those spaces empty, because we come down, and we've had it before where SARS and you were there, when SARS actually set a tent up. Do you remember? And they put it in front of our bay, and we had a big accident on the road, and we had to dismantle it before.
Well,
we could
clearly
go.
you don't want them doing that. Yeah,
So
okay, we
there's-
can talk about that separately.
Yeah.
The idea there is PR in the village, so the village realizes that these services are all here. So they walk past those signs and say, oh, SAR, whoever.
For
that-
PR, I don't think it's. They can park down here. Put some signs down here.
Okay, we'll talk about it.
I don't think we can jeopardise a 911 call.
No,
Parking.
you got to have available spaces, and you don't know when that is, but you know it's 24/7. Okay, that's fine. Thanks, Andrew. Motion to receive the report, and a second. Any further discussion? All in favour? Opposed? That carries.
Good.
Cheers, Chief. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew.
So we're going to move on to the next item, and that is approval of the minutes. Thanks. Go and recruit somebody.
I will.
So those minutes start on page 5. Can I have a motion for approval? Thanks. And a second on that? Thanks. Any discussion? I had none. No? Everybody good? Minutes are correct? A fair representation of proceedings? It was a short meeting. So I'll call the question. All in favour and opposed? That carries. And those were the only sets of minutes. Business arising? None, I believe. From that meeting. So we'll move on to unfinished business. And that is item number 32. Who wants to say that we've done absolutely nothing about this, Peter? You can say it.
Okay, I guess I'm saying it.
Okay, we have not we've done lots of other things, but not that. Okay, so IRRs have been deferred as part of the item which will be deferred in a second. So we'll move on to 8A1, and this is the meat of the meeting, and that is the slew of financial reports. We've all read the reports, so Pam, I don't propose that you need to go through this page by page. Anything that you want to point out that's not obvious, and then I suggest we just go through the inevitable questions.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think I sort of explained I had a few more schedules this time. We had the basic financial results, and then I sort of restated it, showing the rebudgets, and then I had a detailed schedule of what the rebudgets were. I mean, we had discussed them during the budget process, but I thought it was a good exercise to show them again. And then I just had the individual the more detailed analysis on the following pages. So
Yeah.
I thought maybe just if you had questions or.
Okay, so let's just kick off in that vein. So, I mean, I started actually marking up even your report, and then the numbers come through in the schedules as well. But so maybe a bit of jumping around. But I'll open it up to whoever wants to ask. I just want to get some water. Sorry,
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going anywhere. Who wants to kick it off? All right, I'll kick it off. Pam, you said in your report on the second page, finished the year unfavorable to budget because of the grant that wasn't received, but the unfavorable amount was significantly more than the grant. So what else was there that we fell short of? We fell short 84 in revenue, yes, and we didn't do the work for 107. So
Yes.
to me, that would mean that we come out favorable to budget by the difference between those two.
Well, there was also 12,500 that we didn't get in revenue from the Translink grant. We only got 12,500 instead of 25.
Okay, so there were
there's
other
another-
things.
There's
Yeah,
another
it's-
12,500.
It was basically after the rebudget, we were 103,000 favorable. So like I say, the bulk of that was the CN Railway grant and the half of the Translink grant.
You know what? I've just noticed the word grants here. I thought that was the overall budget.
Oh, no. Yeah, no,
Beg your pardon.
that's
Okay.
somewhat higher.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
And then my only other question on the report, and it comes out in the thing. Maybe I'll defer it until we get to the schedule. So, where do we stand? Shall we just go through? So the page 12 and 13 are the consolidated. Looks good, but I think the devil's in the details. So the first time I had any questions was on the revenue summary starting on page 17.
Okay.
And that was that the donations to the fire department were significantly lower.
Yes. Basically, it's an estimate. I don't always know what the donations are. We generally get a Lions Bay Club donation of 5,000, and we will be getting that in 2018. They'll be donating a piece of equipment.
Lions
And-
Club, not Lions Bay Club.
Oh, sorry, Lions Club. And you sort of have to look at the donations and the firefighter day revenue together.
Together, yeah.
The only time we say it's a donation if someone wants a receipt. That's the only way we can know. A lot of the money donated or given on earned on firefighter day it's through the beer garden, but it's also people just putting money in the boot. So
I had a lot to do with
still-
that, by the way. Not the boot part, the other one.
It's a hard number to budget.
I thought maybe you were thinking
It's
about
the-
applying to the Lions for a grant.
So, but yeah, we did finish the year less than budgeted.
Okay, but so that's
But
the
it is,
reason?
yeah.
Okay, good. So, I mean, there's lots of notes here, and I read all of them, and, you know, once you read the notes, you know, you get it. Except for a few things. And that was on the next page for the general fund, professional fees and contract services. That includes the planner that we didn't spend and the,
For administration?
yeah.
No, that's the 20,000 for the asset management and 20,000 for records management that's being rebudgeted.
Okay, that's
So-
only 40,000.
So that brings us up to 91. We were favorable in legal as well.
Ah,
Sorry,
favorable
yeah,
in legal.
in legal
Okay.
as
Yeah.
well.
Okay,
So-
good. So that's good news rather than work that we budgeted and didn't
Yeah.
do. Oh,
And the legal's always a challenge. I like to keep the legal budget the same every year because it's very hard to predict and we don't want to be caught short.
Sure. Sure. I think, Fred, the EOC piece on page 20, we budgeted 21,000 for the
Professional
emergency
development.
coordinator, which we didn't spend. That's what's going to be done differently this year that will get spent this year.
I think the hope is we'll bring somebody on a part-time basis this year. It's been a long time coming, but if we get there, then we get there.
Is that the case? It's a
Well,
it's a staffer.
It's a no. First and foremost, it's a consultant to come in and tell us where our gaps are and provide us with a list of projects that we can attack. But we need to attack that with some staff. So we will need to have somebody doing those things. So it's a bit of a combination of things.
Okay, well, I mean, I don't need to remind any one of us that 21,000 represents 2% tax increase. So that was money that we taxed and didn't spend, so we needn't have taxed it. Now, in theory, we would have had to tax it this year. So that's coming straight back out of, it's not even, didn't even go into reserves, it's just rebudgeted, right?
Yeah, basically it flows to surplus because we haven't said it, and then we draw it from surplus if we rebudget.
Okay, and that has been rebudgeted,
Yes,
so
it
that's
has.
good.
Well, if I can add to that, it's not that we're kind of sloppy in budgeting it. It had the best intentions of following it through, but I think the workload on staff has been so high that they just haven't been able to get around to it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, that's like going to the buffet and putting more on your plate than you intend to eat, or you know that you can eat. So we have to be careful about that because, you know, that
So there's nothing wrong with that then.
No, but we've discussed previously about being aware of being considerate of staff time. We've had many of those discussions in our term. And so everybody thinks pretty much watching that kind of stuff, and we are very careful about that. But it just shows us that we still need to pay attention to it.
Fair enough. So let's move on to fire department. This is the one that I'm trying to get my head around this trailer.
Yes, the trailer.
So the costs that you're quoting here, are they net of the insurance proceeds? Or?
Some are and some aren't.
Yeah,
So
okay.
basically, we were insured for $152,000, and that will pretty much cover replacing the trailer, replacing all the contents, doing some site prep. There was quite a large bill to excavate the site. There were some contaminated things to put the trailer back, but there were some things that came up that are not covered by insurance. And one of them is when we were installing the trailer, they realized it was an oil tank. We didn't know anything about it. It was a buried oil tank, but we had to remove it. And there was some parking area prep. The parking area, they have a place they'd leveled off for parking, and in the process of removing things, they had to fix it, but that wasn't covered by insurance. Plus, there was a septic tank that we had to remove, and that was not covered by insurance either. So the septic tank is now in capital. That was about $5,000. But the removing the oil tank and doing the work on the parking area was not covered.
Septic tank is 5,000 to buy. Yes, that's true. But the field?
It's just a tank for pumping.
It's just a tank, no field.
Oh, there's no field.
No,
it's
it
a
was
holding
just a
tank.
tank.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, I hear you. An oil tank at a gravel pit?
You would
Yeah,
ne-
bygone from the old public works yard, from what I understand.
We had no idea it was there. It was just discovered during the process, but we had to remove it. There was a
Was
potential
it
for
a storage
leaking.
tank or a fuel tank?
There's a fuel tank.
For heat in the building,
Yeah.
in the old public works
In the old
building.
public works yard building.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
So the insurance didn't cover that.
Okay, so I mean, when I do all the sums, what is replacing the trailer going to cost us after insurance, including this year?
After insurance, I think all the extra costs we've had were incurred in 2017. So it was basically the $13,000 and $5,000 for the septic tank. So about $18,000 wasn't covered, and we were able to cover it in this year's budget. And then in 2018, any other additional costs we have, because they're still replacing the contents, there's still some outstanding on the trailer. There will be enough insurance proceeds to cover that. We haven't received all the insurance proceeds yet.
Okay, but you're expecting 150 something.
It
So
was
we
insured for
budgeted
$152.
$70,000 for maintenance and materials, and we have spent 103.
Oh, sorry, maintenance and materials. You added them together. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so and that 103 is offset by 150,000 insurance proceeds.
It is.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So we're
Yeah,
not
but
left holding the
it's
babies.
kind of back and forth, but at the end of the day, you've summed it up. There were certain things that weren't covered, but everything
I think we
else.
can understand that.
And there is a potential, it's going to be close for the insurance coverage. We discussed this during the budget process. If we do go over a bit, then Chief Oliver will pay for that with his fire funds. So that's why we haven't budgeted
Well, it all
for
comes
any
out of the same
overage.
pocket in the end. But yeah, I mean, so did we approve a budget adjustment for that? I seem to remember.
It was in there and then we removed it because by the fire paying for it, it is a little bit different. It's drawn from a reserve, like the money that the fire department collects through their donations and their firefighters' day goes into, it's in a bank account, but it is essentially a reserve. and we will draw from that reserve to pay for any overages. So we don't have to tax for it, is essentially what I'm saying.
Okay, is everybody happy on the? We still don't know who caught the thing alight, do we?
No, they
It's kind of ironic that the fire department's trailer caught alight, but
They actually don't know what caused the fire,
Yeah.
so.
do we have video up there now?
Not yet.
But we will.
We're
We're
working
working
on
on
an
it.
internet connection and, yeah.
Which is part of the 2018 budget.
That's going to have to be a hardened cable, obviously. The first thing you do in the movies is you cut the telephone line. Okay.
So much for not getting the information out there.
Yeah, I think people are wise to that trick. Okay, so we'll move on if everybody's jiggy with that. Bylaw services. This is one of those buffet analogies. We wanted $24,583 worth of bylaw services, and we only got 19,000. That's not good. But
Yeah,
we're going to
was-
fix that this year. By
Yes.
having, going to give them nicer T-shirts or something, so they feel like getting out there.
Yeah, we actually have just put the bylaw posting out now, the job posting, and our plan is to hire 2 and to share the shifts again.
And just remind us what we're going for.
Well, should I tell them about the proposed change? We were going for 8 hours on Friday, a 12-hour shift on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, split 50-50 between the two.
12 hours each day.
Yes, 6 and
We made it up
6.
at 14, I thought.
But, yeah, no, so that's what I'm saying. That's the last thing you saw, the proposal, but we're now recommending 14 hours.
I'm all for it.
Because, so we will amend the budget slightly for that.
So
It's about
Friday
additional-
afternoon, pretty
It's
much
still
all of
8 hours.
Saturday, pretty much all of Sunday,
Yeah.
and what's the Monday?
Stat holidays, when there's a stat.
Oh,
we have
when
that
there's a
work as
stat.
well. So
It's
there's
only, I think, 3.
3 or 4. May, July 1st, August, and Labor Day, so 4.
Where's the comparison to tell us whether it's passing or failing? In other words, do we know X number of hours produces this, or are we just saying, we budgeted for this, we did this, the job's adequate or it's not adequate? Is the bylaw services department actually feeling the need and doing what they're supposed to do for what we've given them, or what they've brought, what they've produced?
I think that they have their hands full on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. And from what I understand, when it was tried on Thursdays, it wasn't, the demand wasn't there. It wasn't worthwhile, it was deemed.
Okay.
So that's why we focused on, I think, we've upped the hours on the weekends so that we've got more and better coverage for the highest demand peak periods.
I'm just asking the question because it seems to me that if we've got, if we know where the throttle needs to be, then, and we know what that gives us and we're happy with that, then we should be there. I guess what it is, we don't have any parameters, we don't know for sure.
Well, we do have a parameter, and that's user complaint, and we had too many complaints last year.
Okay.
So that's why I say I think we need to up the coverage. So I think that's fair to say that the discriminant will be complaints, and my goal is far fewer complaints.
It's
this
a
year.
hard one to manage.
Yeah, we're seeking compliance, not enforcement. That's the first order of business. So we need to understand. If we don't issue one ticket, I'm fine with it, as long as we get compliance with all of our rules, particularly parking, but also noise, smoke, water use, unlicensed dogs. That's not a very important one, by the way. I'm glad somebody's listening. So, good. As you know, I've been a proponent of increasing it. I'd like to have a permanent bylaw officer. Why? Just to up the tone of the place. But okay, so that's good. So I'm glad to hear that. Thanks. Moving on to public works. The salaries and benefits is all over the place, but the overall is that we came in 98%
Yes,
budget
yeah.
on all the allocations of
That's
public
right. We
works.
try our best to estimate what each category, because we need the separate funds, so that's why I always do the overall, that a couple of the areas were over, some were under,
Yeah.
but overall they were within
That's
96.
That's the only way to do it, in fact, because
It is.
you're never going to hit it
Yeah,
on the
try to be as
individual.
accurate as possible, but, so it's 96.8, and as I said, it was just, we had a couple of longer WCB claims, so.
Well, that was
WCB
lucky,
pays the
because
salary.
had that not been the case, we would have been over, right?
We probably went right on, 100%.
We
wouldn't
had
be-
extra snow
Yeah.
removal this year, did we not? Quite a lot
Part of
of.
it was extra, because we budget for that in overtime.
So-
That cost of the snow removal is the overtime, and we were on budget with the overtime.
Even
so-
with the unprecedented amount of snow last January and February.
So,
Theoretically, on a low snow year, we'd have a surplus in snow removal.
Oh, I see. Okay.
so there are touch points around that, and WCB claims are manageable from internal forces within the organization, i.e. your health and safety program, what you do, what your training is, all that kind of stuff. And so it's okay to have a couple of unexpected claims as long as we don't ever have them again, and the next time we get something else unexpected. I'm not saying that's acceptable, but I'm saying that at least we're taking the right steps.
Yeah, my concern is more that we have the hours that we're paying for.
Well,
Because
that's right.
we need, as it is, we're under the gun. The one thing, note 4, the theft of fuel, why is that not covered by insurance?
I think it was more the size of the claim. And what
We
it
just
does
didn't
charge-
claim.
I think it was under our deductible.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we move on? Everybody good? So on the next one, the planning and development, in the notes, why is that $24,000 to prep the site? Why doesn't that just come out of the net proceeds? I thought that's how we were handling it. We've always quoted the sale of 51 Brunswick Beach. We've always quoted net of prep costs.
It's net of the legal costs and the site for the prep on the actual land we're selling. I'm talking to the auditors about this, but because we actually did something that wasn't on the property, we probably can't use the proceeds for it.
From an accounting standpoint,
From an-
it's just
well,
cash, obviously.
It's just cash. Basically what happens is it'll come from reserves rather than the land reserve, so we'll have more money to loan to ourselves. I mean, at the end of the day, it comes from reserves, it's just a different reserve. It has to come from, I'm still in discussions with them, but I can kind of see their point. It was like we chose to rebuild the carport, but the actual, to sell the land, all that was covered was removing the carport. And we chose
No, I
to do
know,
something
but the
rather than
optics
a
of it
lot.
are, were we going around building people's carports with them now? No, this was a consideration,
Oh, definitely.
yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't change that. I mean, it definitely, I think, was the right decision that in order to build that lot, we had to do that to get the carport off.
The
But it's just
rationale for
whether
the
or not.
decision is the same, it's just the accounting treatment
Yeah.
has changed.
Yeah, but
that's a good
now
way
it's
to say
front
it.
and center.
We can't really do anything about that unless BDO tells us otherwise.
Okay, so that's an auditor's requirement.
Mhm.
Okay, good. Or not good, as the case may be. Okay,
And we're still in discussions.
well, discuss.
I'm not confident that I'll win, but we're still,
Yeah, it's-
we're still in discussions.
You don't sound
I haven't
confident.
completely caved.
okay. The water fund. I'm doing all the talking.
Sorry, Parks and Rec? Did we skip
No,
that?
no, I didn't have anything there. No.
Oh,
Yeah, no, it all looked pretty good to me there. This is page 28.
Parks,
Note-
rec, and facilities.
oh, I'm sorry, Parks, Rec and Facilities.
What's that?
It's-
What's the
well,
facilities
we've been
part?
calling it Parks and Rec, but a big chunk of the costs are facilities, so we wanted to emphasize that it was Parks, Rec and Facilities. So it was a management job.
Because we have no rec.
Are the facilities in parks?
The facilities are what were in the buildings and
Okay.
Yeah, flat
the
building. is
flat
okay,
building.
that's
Because some of the cost
I'm
overages were
being a
because of that.
smartass. That's
I know
okay.
you were. I was ignoring it.
Speaking of which, the cat building it looks like it needs a coat of paint. 5 years ago.
Mhm.
Is there any?
It's on the bucket list down here.
Don't start like this if you.
Does that mean it's still in the bucket, the paint?
Yeah, yeah. More important are the heaters in the ambulance bay that we're working on right now.
Literally, tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah, the public doesn't see the heaters in the ambulance bay.
No, understood.
The taxpayer public.
But the ambulance drivers need it.
Yes.
Okay. We don't have a lick of paint budgeted for this year, do we?
No.
It really is looking
It
bad.
would just be operational staff unless we chose to contract.
It's
it out.
pretty high.
Yeah, we have a bucket truck.
Would it reach?
Yeah.
Haha, that was a trick question.
Was a
Because now-
2017 budget purchase.
Yes, no, I know about the bucket truck. I just didn't know how big it was. So the signage could be put up by the bucket truck as well.
What signage?
Too late.
He got you.
Okay, so On the water fund, note 3, budget included 30K for rock slope remediation, which was not completed this year due to later than expected completion of the NDC, and 18K for water modeling. So we underspent what we budgeted. Is that being rebudgeted this year, or is that money?
The rock scaling, yeah.
Okay, so that's where I'm going. So we're doing the rock scaling this year
Yes.
because the road has been fixed, except it hasn't been fixed
No.
because there's a new development. Can you just? You may be doing this later, sorry, but just tell us what is the budget implications for the recent collapse of the road?
We will be talking about that later.
Okay.
But there's a significant slide on Harvey Intake Road that needs to be rectified.
Okay. Okay. We'll talk about that when it comes up.
And then the water modeling, this reminds me of how long ago the 2017 budget was. When we budgeted that, we hadn't been awarded the CWWF
Yeah.
grant, so we had to budget for it just in case because we had to do it. And then
Yeah.
it turned out that we got the grant and we didn't have to.
So we only pay 17 cents on the dollar and was it 18? I seem to remember it was a bit
Yeah.
more in the end.
No, it was 18. The that one and the SCADA plan both came in under the clean water wastewater SCADA
So
communication.
what I call the cellular communication
Mhm.
or the SCADA communication. Yeah. Okay. Has the answer come in yet?
You'll see it in a future meeting.
He just can't bring himself to say the word cellular. Okay. The chlorine analyzers, turbidity meters, automated blow-offs.
Sorry, we've gone to capital?
Yeah,
Okay. sorry.
Yeah, I'm just going ahead until somebody puts up.
Stops you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
So what's the question?
So we built it in-house, so we didn't need the budget last year, but we're going to.
We purchased and built and installed the chlorine analyzers and the turbidity meters.
Yes.
The automated blow-off, rather than purchasing a stock unit for, I think they're running around 5,000. Garth was able to build an internal one for less than $1,000, installed, tested. So the idea is to, rather than buying 4 or 5 of these units, is to build them internally. So we'll buy the parts this year and Garth will build
So
them.
that's what that money's going to be for.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
Water sampling stations.
Yeah.
Slightly
Yeah.
different use.
And this meets what's the Canadian equivalent of underwriter's lab?
The sampling stations or the
The blow-offs.
automated
No, the
blow-offs?
blow-offs.
There is no standard for them.
Okay.
We talked to one of the suppliers who builds them for these companies like Pollard Water, whatever, and he basically is the one that explained to Garth that if you go to Home Depot and put it together, you can build your own.
Yeah.
So,
And these go on the PRVs.
no, they go on the water main, so they're for Creekview, Lower Lions Bay Avenue, where we've got large mains, low residence time over the summer, and the water becomes stagnant, and we get high HPC counts.
High
We
residence.
have to flush those areas on a regular basis, so putting them on an automated blow-off or automated flushing station negates having to send a staff person there to watch water run. It's basically automatic, goes on for whatever you set the timer to, and then it turns off.
Got it. Where do we stand on the emergency generator for this complex?
So
Is it
I
today?
have met with AECom's electrical engineer. We are scheduling a site visit for the next week or so to come in and do the full evaluation. So evaluating the load on the fire building and then determining if we can transfer it here and what's going to be needed to do that.
Yeah, it's not going to save the full 30,000, but because we still need transfer switches and all that stuff, if it works. But
Yeah.
it's going to save 15,000.
Don't know. We'll
Okay.
have to wait and see. But there will be a separate report to council on that.
Okay. Okay, so now I come back to the fire training trailer, Pam. The actual was 86. The budget was 0. Obviously, we didn't budget it burning down. So what is that 86?
That 86 is just the trailer, because that's where it gets, some of the costs had to stay in operating, because they were operating costs and some of the costs are in capital. So the trailer is a tangible capital asset now, as is the septic tank.
Okay,
And
so that's the
remaining
capital
costs are
part,
operating.
covered by
So that
insurance.
is just the trailer, yeah.
Okay, got it. Got
And
it.
then we'll have more capital coming in 2018 as they start. Because they just got the trailer at the end of the year, like the Home Depot purchase that's coming is the fridge and the stove, and so there'll be more capital coming this year, but it will be covered off by insurance. So it'll be a net zero impact.
Got it. Thanks.
Yeah, it was a bit messy because it's the capital, the operating. We got
You
some
had
of
to
the
split
money.
the-
We'll get
the-
some of the money next
The
year.
proceeds against capital
Yes.
and against operating.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, got it. Now I understand. Didn't appreciate the difference. Anybody else?
So could you circle back to the public works maintenance piece?
Page?
Public Works.
23.
Yes.
Why have we underspent so much on maintenance? I'm just missing that. We budgeted over 200,000, only spent 90.
Yeah, that's, last year's budget included, we'd hoped to get a CN Rail grant to do. We have 3
Okay.
railway crossings we have to do.
Okay.
So yeah, it gets kind of awkward because we had $107,000 of expense we didn't use, but then we had $83,000 worth of revenue we didn't get. So the net impact was $23,000, and we've budgeted for 2018 because we don't anticipate being able to get a CN grant. They pretty much told us we won't get a CN grant.
What we're talking about is the Kelvin
Kelvin
Grove and
Grove.
the Brunswick Beach railway crossings, which are required to be replaced by Transport Canada.
By 2021, I believe.
This will be
2022.
a capital expenditure that we pay CN Rail to replace those 2 crossings. It's not staff time.
So because we're not going to get a grant, or we're pretty sure we will still try, but we can't afford to do it all in 1 year. So we would have with the grant. So we're going to do one in 2018, and we'll rebudget that 23,000. Then I'll budget another one in 2019, and the last one in 2020. And that gives us a bit of a cushion because they don't have to be done until 2021. But if we budget them, and if something comes up, we'll still have time to meet the deadline.
And we are too small to get a grant.
Yes, that was the
Through
reason.
That's
the
backwards.
federal government, yeah.
Makes no sense.
It's,
Yeah.
I'm not going to take that lying down. I actually spoke to the CN rep at the Mayor's Caucus last week and hemmed and hawed a bit about. Just remind me what each one costs.
Well, the Brunswick Beach is a double, so it's
Yeah.
going to run us around 40,000, and Kelvin Grove's going to be about 23, I think.
Okay. Yeah. That's iniquitous. They can't expect us to pay for those things. Now I know that our road crosses their line, not the other way around. They were there first, but still, I mean that's their logic. Sorry, we were there first, Mayor Barry.
Seniority.
I think it's even worse than that. It was a land grant given to them back in the days of the fur traders, and they seem to think they're still in those days. You can quote me on that, because that's being recorded. So okay, so I'm going to see what I can do there by approaching higher levels of government. But so we're in for potentially 60. So how was it that we were going for a grant of 80?
If the grant is 80, then the total cost was 80. I don't remember the details.
So it was an 80% grant. So we
Oh,
estimated
okay.
the cost to be 107. 80% of that was 83. So we were hoping to get the grant, and then our piece would have been the 23.
Okay, but
So
that's
that's what we
107. Now I'm
budgeted.
hearing it's actually only 60.
I
no.
need to. I did a report to council on that. I need to refresh
Yeah.
my mind.
Okay,
I
so
think
I'm-
each one was about 35,000.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's still only 70.
No, there's 3. We have to do 3.
Oh,
When he said it's a
yeah.
double, that meant 2.
Brunswick
So-
Beach is a double.
Yeah. So
It's
it's
40,000.
each one was about 35.
I will defer to the last council report I did, which had it, and I'll send
Okay.
it to you.
Yes, please do, because
Yeah.
I need to know what sort of numbers were. What happens if we don't do it?
We are
Like West-
subject to fines and liability if there's an accident. So the Transport Canada revised regulations are based on safety. So these are all safety to prevent collisions.
Of course.
So we're liable.
They're also going to pull out the privacy card, right? It's going to be, if it doesn't work on safety, they'll pull out the privacy. Okay, so it's some number, somewhere between
it was
60 and 100.
107 for the
100.
3. I
'Cause
just don't know what the split
that-
was.
Because the Lions Bay Avenue one is done, right?
Lions Bay Avenue is done.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those cost estimates are direct from CN and their suppliers. So I will get you that council report.
Okay, so that's fine. It's 107
For
we're
the
talking
So
about.
that we
they
have to do.
mandate the work and they do the work and they set the price for the work.
Transport Canada mandates the work, they change the regulations, and CN is our rail provider, so they have to do the work.
It's a fox guarding the hen house, yes.
Yeah.
You twigged it. Yeah, yeah it's.
So there's no provision to have that inspected and just assessed for its condition to see whether or not it actually needs to be replaced.
They do need to be replaced.
Okay.
Yeah,
The
I think
timbers are-
all of us can look and say, yeah, that's not looking so good.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
There's, if I recall, there's a lot of issues around CN right now, especially on this line, with speed, weights, limits, and things like that, that they're hauling on the line all the time. And so I would think they would be very willing to make sure that the crossings and everything else are in good shape so they can withstand something slightly more than what the standard says they have to. But that's just me being practical.
Well, I mean, that actually raises the question, what sort of standard are we expected to repair these things to? Existing? Future?
Well, considering that their recommendation is concrete rail bed
Mhm.
with rubberized flangeways
Mhm.
to protect it,
Like they've done on Lions Bay Avenue.
exactly like Lions Bay Avenue.
I mean, the other issue, of course, is that, there's some consideration that this corridor will be used for commuter rail, which may or may not happen until they can straighten out the line, because, the speed limit on the line is so slow you can't actually commute. But I don't want to be spending $107,000 of our precious money on something that's going to be ripped up. Is there any consideration that, look, you're making us spend 107 we don't have in our negotiations for use of the lot, the parking lot?
I think they'll probably draw a line in the sand and say these
Different
two,
department.
two completely different things. Don't try and mix them together.
Yeah, sort of
I
along the
suspect
lines
so.
of Councillor Hughes' comment. Public Works at CN wants to see the crossings redone. It's senior management that wants us to pay for it.
Yes, no, I think I appreciate it. I think I've told you that I want to get a CN coffee mug because, it's the white mug with the CN logo. And then I want to turn it upside down because you know what it says? No.
This is not an issue, but it's something that, because I've been in the village for a while, I recall the issue with Brunswick. And property owners' property that's on the railroad line and railroad property stuff, railroad lines that are on public property or property that belongs to people. And it just seems all of a sudden it just went like this. And I don't think we ever got a real good answer about that. Like, a lot of the lots down there are apparently on the wrong side of the line.
They're
And-
bisected by the rail.
Well, it's in order
Yeah.
to make up the minimum lot size, yes. So in order to do that, they had to give them little slivers of land on the other side, inaccessible, but it's part of the parcel to make up the minimum lot size
Okay.
for the survey.
I just remember having a conversation with Mr. Gates when he was around. And
I'm
he
looking at that
enlightened me
property.
on that one quite significantly. So it was quite interesting.
Yeah, yeah. The lots are all little pieces to make up the lot size. Yeah, Mr. Gates is lot 41.
Yeah, that's right,
Lot,
Yeah.
lot 39.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we could talk about CN forever, so
No,
let's.
that's
Big season.
Does that satisfy you, Norm?
Yep.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it was. Yeah. And they're not going to give us the grant, or so they think.
No, I've applied twice, and the next one, I think the next intake is in August. And the discussion I had with I called Montreal, the head of the grant division. And
The no saying department.
Absolutely
Yeah.
told no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll send you a coffee mug though.
Yeah, no, not even that.
In French?
In French.
French, yeah.
Okay, so is everybody good with that last remark? Fred, that was a thumbs up. Jim,
Yes.
Norm.
Yeah.
So did we move receipt? I don't think we did. So that's a bit backwards. Sorry. Can I have a motion to receive the report and a second? Any further discussion? Okay, all in favour? All opposed? That carries. Thanks, Pam. Good stuff. It's pretty cut and dried. It only takes many hours of overtime, working 7 days a week. I see you sitting here. Thank you. It's appreciated. It's regularized. Okay, so the next item we were going to defer until we came back out of close, so we'll move on to.
Nope. Nope. Gotta
Oh, sorry, you see, I'm going through I should look at the agenda.
Water, wastewater, bottom page.
Okay, 9.
So we extended the closing date to March
Make sure you
28th
get good minutes on this one.
on the, based upon requests from potential bidders. There was one large contractor that requested an additional week to prepare their submission. So the new closing date is March, sorry,
29th,
29th.
12th noon.
Thank you. And we will have a report to council on recommendations for the April 10th meeting.
You'll have had an opportunity to sufficiently review the bids by then.
Correct. AECom will also provide us with a report on their recommendation for who the preferred vendor is.
Okay, and the thinking is that we would award the contract at that meeting?
That we would award them at that meeting and that we would give them go-ahead on the 11th, the morning.
And how soon after that would they be putting shovels into the ground?
It depends on the contractor that bids
Yeah,
and
yeah.
what their schedule is,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, and the required federal signage, where is that?
I haven't heard back from the Queen's printer. I keep sending them requests, so the Queen's printer is in Victoria. I would imagine that they've got quite a few signs to produce for all these grant projects. So,
Yeah. Tell that to the Marines. We've got a PR exercise that we need to,
I'll follow up again.
yeah. Okay,
The other question that I think I should bring up that was submitted during the site meeting was a request to consider relaxation of some of the noise bylaw. So there may be a point in time where we come back to council and ask for a relaxation or have a discussion about relaxing the noise bylaw to accommodate potentially later hours during the day or potentially Saturday work.
well, Saturdays are allowed, it's Sundays that are not allowed, and public holidays. Okay, well, we'll have to see what the request is, obviously.
Yeah. Just
What about
plan to
decibel
see.
limits?
We don't have a decibel meter, so we can't read decibel
Yeah,
limits.
it's an unenforceable piece of our bylaw,
Yeah.
unlike any other bylaw.
Use your iPhone.
Yeah. Well, I suspect, so this is more something that you need to be thinking through, Peter. There's going to be a bit of noise. So it may be that we'd have to look very carefully at extending the hours.
Mm.
People need to know that it's going to stop at a certain point.
I think a little bit of noise would be nice if we had our water in place before the summer dry season.
Well, the timeline is smack dab in the dry season is when the main tank is going to be down.
That's worst case scenario. We still don't know. If there's a contractor that's gung ho and large enough to mobilize 3 or 4 crews, they may be able to get it done in a month or 2. Right? So.
And that your evaluation criteria are set up in such a way that you add points for that, do you
We'll
not?
look at all of that.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's cross that bridge when we get to it, but thanks for the heads up. That's always good to know what we're facing. Okay, so the next 2 items are deferred and or tabled. And so is the next item on the agenda. That's the committee report for the Trees, Views and Landscapes Committee. So we'll move on to the Lions Bay Beach Park Advisory Committee meeting minutes and the recommendations. So the first is I'll ask for a motion to receive the minutes for information. Thanks. Any discussion on those? I need to ask for a second, I guess. Second. Thanks. And any discussion on those? So all in favor of receiving the minutes? Thanks. And opposed? That carries. So let's then go to the recommendations, starting on page 49. We'll discuss them first and I'll ask for a motion after. So they're all there. I think it's fairly well understood. There's some phase 1 recommendations. This is the first time I've seen them. What do we think?
I think there's a plan there to start lightly and move forward and do a little bit of, get enough to say, okay, we're doing something, and then move forward a little bit quicker in the following year and make some major changes. But, you know, I mean, it's a start, and I think that it's better than what we accomplished last year.
Yeah, what is the total of this one?
Phase one totals
30,000.
30,000,
We-
which is the carry forward or the rebudget from the 2017 budget, plus the 1,000 from the Horns movie that Ruth Simon had.
Why are we getting that? She's donated.
No, it was, came from a film crew years ago, and we've just had it sitting
Oh.
in deferred revenue,
Yeah.
and this
It was from a
qualifies for
budget
use.
from a house, was it a house or a movie in one of the
I think it was
buildings,
the
houses
Horns,
down there
the
or
movie
something?
was called Horns.
It's what,
and
it was
that
their
was
community
Ruth's house.
contribution.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So,
Yeah.
Which we've never been able to use
but
until
phase
now,
two,
so-
630,000. That's not chump change.
No, I think that would probably be for the next council to consider. And yeah, I mean, you know, when I see a $300,000 washroom rebuild, I think, wow, you can build a house for that.
Well, I think it's a little bit more than that, but the reality is that it's long, that's probably one of the most used pieces of property in the village during our good season. And we've all fielded a lot of discussion over the last couple of years on this topic. I think it's time that something, a plan, if nothing else, the plan gets started now.
So I guess that does actually, I mean, Naya, I'm looking at you because you participate in all these meetings. $50,000 for tender-ready design and plans. Should we not be budgeting that this year so that we can hit the ground running next year?
Well, I think when it came to budget time and the dollar crunch that we were under, Councillor McLaughlin, who chairs the committee, recognized that there's really no budget available.
Even for so that means that any construction that will take place will be summer 2020.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on proceeds from land sales and if the funding does become available. I think that's the gist of where the committee was led.
Understand that the committee's new, feeling their way. You know, summer's coming pretty quickly, so something has to be done. You're not gonna spend major dollars to do something half-assed, so to speak, to get things right. Excuse my language, but the reality is.
No, that's a valid
this
planning
is a
term.
plan. You know, this looks to me like some sort of a plan is in place.
They
And
have, sorry, Jim.
They have a plan.
They have done significant amount of work on a conceptual plan, which will be, as part of the first, designed and an artist rendering would be put up on a billboard at the park for the public to comment and opine on.
Yeah.
So they've done some significant work, and this is the bare bones of what they suggest should be done this year.
Okay, well, seeing as we're going to be approving this, what's the recommendation here? Begin implementation. So we're going to decide whether we're going to do this. So we need to spend some time going through these recommendations. Now, I was part of the discussion as well, obviously, so I'm not a complete innocent in this. Let's just knock them off one by one. Design and communication. So the idea there is a billboard with a rendering and some text and stuff. Obviously, it has to be generated by somebody who understands SketchUp or AutoCAD or whatever it is, right? So 55, yeah, sounds right.
I think one of the things that were talked about in terms of benefits of doing this is that with the public able to see what the ideas are and what the concept is, that there could even be some potential for a fundraising aspect to this. You know,
Yeah.
people may want to step up and donate.
Well, that's clearly
to,
talked about in the report.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a good thing. I look at this and say, this is a recommendation or a working paper, okay? This is something the committee is recommending, and we don't have to say, yeah, stamp, away we go, but we need to look at it and say, yeah, this is a good start.
No, in fact,
It's a great start.
the recommendation is to instruct staff to immediately
Yeah.
begin implementation of the recommendations.
Yeah.
So phase one
Phase
is you'd be
Yeah.
saying yes,
For
yeah,
phase
go ahead
one.
with
For
phase one
phase
and
one,
spend that
absolutely,
money on
yeah.
these things.
Yeah.
So we'll treat this as something of an a la carte. So design and communication, yeah, I get it, and I think we need to do that for all the reasons stated. The shower, foot rinse, drinking water, boat wash station. I don't know if I like the boat wash piece. Where does the water go?
It would just go basically back onto the grass and down into the beach. So we're talking about a spigot for a hose, so they can rinse down paddle boards, etc., before they put them in the rack.
Okay. I mean, I understand the part about the shower and the foot rinse, and that means you need to be up off the sand. Otherwise, what's the point? But so the water is going to run onto a concrete pad. The DFO is okay with water running back into the sea?
As long as it goes back in through a dechlorination chamber, and that will be installing that.
All for $2,500?
That's just the parts. Public Works labor is included in our operating budget.
Okay.
So yes.
It's a la carte, so we were going through this thing course by course. So what do we think about that?
Tastes fine.
Good. Okay, so pavers and handrails at the south steps. That's the, what are the south steps? Just the stone steps.
Closest to the marina.
The stone steps.
Yeah.
That are, yeah, okay, so they're very eroded at the top.
Mhm.
So pavers there and handrails.
Yeah, so a flat area for the shower adjacent to that, and then handrail.
The shower would be on the edge of the retaining wall.
Well, it'll be up by that set of steps. We'll be building a large flat area. So you walk up the steps, go to the right, there'll be a shower.
But there's a chessboard there now and a bench.
The chessboard's gone. It's gone
Oh.
quite a while ago.
Shows how often I play chess.
Yeah.
Okay, and the bench?
The bench is probably going to come down, but we don't know. We'll have to look at it.
Okay, I had envisaged that the shower pad is very close to the fence, out of the way.
Okay.
Why? Is because, you know, people might feel a little spare about, you know, abluting right next to the steps. Okay, but that's...
We're not talking about a foot or two away.
Okay,
It'll
fine.
be in that
That,
vicinity.
that can be done as the time comes.
Yeah.
So, and you think that might come from the Water Access Fund? Steps, for heaven's sake, that give you access to water.
Yeah.
I defer to the CAO.
So I'm being slightly facetious. So just tell us, who decides whether it's water access?
I'm waiting for that opinion from the law firm, because I did put forward a request, provided a bunch of scenarios, provided some of these examples, and said, you know, help me design a test here. And so I understand that some work was done. I thought I'd have it by now, but I'll follow up shortly.
Because I'll just remind us that it's council that makes that decision, but we need a guideline to say, because if we're challenged, remind us what happens, we pay for it personally, plus a fine. We have to reimburse the funds.
Potentially.
Yeah. So we don't want to get it wrong, because these are restricted funds that are required to improve access to a body of water. So what does that actually mean? So Peter is getting it first. Okay, so, because ultimately council must decide that, and we have to resolve that this qualifies. So we need to be pretty sure this is not an administrative decision, it has to be council. Okay, kayak rack, 20 grand. Is this welded or bolted together with collars?
It is it's a material called 80/20. It's aluminum. It's channelized metal that you cut into pieces, and it has different brackets and different accessories that you can put on. It's basically a mechano set.
Okay, and the boats sit on wooden pads, because obviously metal is going to scratch up the bottom of boats.
Yeah, we were thinking of foam or some sort of other padding on the rails that the boats slide into.
Okay, well that has to be thought through, because obviously you can't slide on foam, it will stick.
Yeah,
It's wood now, so it works fine.
The manufacturer provides rollers, so this material 80/20 is also used to build conveyor belts and material like that. So they do have rollers that we can add on.
So you're pretty happy with the number?
Yeah.
Now, loading from the uphill side? That means-
that was the committee recommendation, yeah.
Okay, we'd need to see that drawn out, obviously, because it seems to me that you're coming from the sea with your kayak,
Mm-hmm.
big or small, and you trot up past the rack, you swing.
Speaks to the imagination.
Okay, I'll call the meeting back to order. That was a very short recess. It's 20:28 on the
Okay, so
satellite time. So we were discussing on an a la carte basis the current plan for the beach park, and the next item was the Little Free Book Hut.
So the committee wanted a small book hut for people to leave books, take a book, read a book, put it back.
Where would that be, and how big would the overhang be to prevent sodden books down the beach?
We are still working on the design, but it would have doors, I suspect.
Okay.
Put near the bathroom, under the overhang.
Okay.
We'll work it out.
Okay, it's only $500. Okay, the middle cedar fir tree, $6,000. So the middle one, there's three on the south side of the beach park. The middle one is a clump of trees. I think it's actually 3 trees.
Yeah, the ones we're talking about are just up from the south stairways, and there's 2 trees. It's a fir and a cedar.
Yeah.
Both of them, some significant large leaders that are going to be prone to breaking off. We've had several branches of significant size already broken off, and they're hung up in the tree right now. So
This is the one with the bench underneath it.
yeah, we need to get moving on this pretty quick.
I don't call that the middle cedars, to be honest. I call that the west cedars. I have to picture it. But the committee's done it. Do we have the arborist report
Yes, we do.
that we can make public?
Yeah.
Because the last time it was proposed to take those trees down, I think some of you that was not well received.
Yeah, again, there's a couple of branches that are already hung up that could have come down, so we need to move on this pretty quick.
Okay, and will they stump grind the stump?
I'm not sure for that amount of dollars. I don't recall.
Okay, I think we would want to see the stump ground, right? You know.
Carved into a large bench.
Well, eventually that area is proposed for being
Yeah,
re-landscaped.
maybe it can wait.
Yeah.
Maybe it can
So-
wait until the machines are there. Okay.
Yeah.
Are we all good on this?
Mhm.
I mean, that's, you know how they say in Yes Minister, this is a very brave decision, Minister. This is a very brave decision, councillors. Tree coming down, much loved.
Well, I think it's just the natural or the sensible thing to do. We've had our arborist reports on it. The thing's unsafe, it's untree, unsafe, and it's going to cause injury sooner or later. Just because a bunch of people gather together and get the kids involved and it says that, no, we love our tree, well, put the old gal to rest, the time's up.
cedar trees don't always come down when you think they're gonna come down. They
Yeah.
come down at the most unlikely time.
Yeah.
Because they don't have tap roots. They just lean over.
And they rot from the inside.
That's right.
Yeah. And this has been cabled, so a crack has been cabled, and there is signs of rot in this tree as well. So
Did they do a core in the arborist report?
No, they did not do a core. It turns out there's only one company that does cores and looks at center rot. This arborist actually climbed the tree and looked at the cabling that was put to protect a split, and noticed rot in some of the branches and the trunk.
And we have 2 arborist reports.
Yeah.
Okay. So we will publish those as part of this recommendation.
I hadn't thought of publishing them. I was just gonna go ahead and get the work done because of the danger and the urgency in getting it done.
I think we need to. Because this will be reported on Friday by the mayor in his
Fair enough.
desk piece, because it's a big deal. And I would like to be able to refer to the reports. You think?
Yeah.
That's the way to go?
Well, if it's a dangerous tree, it's gotta go.
Yeah, we know that, but
Well, especially there.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I've been hearing for 8 years that it's a dangerous tree. Okay, so now this council is going to do something about it, but it'd be nice to have the corroboration in formal arborist reports. And I like the fact that there's 2.
It's called due diligence.
Yeah. Okay, fine. So we're good on that. Replace or repair wood stairs. Now this was the one thing I wanted to see was those stairs replaced, but I see it's a $20,000, $30,000 item. That's why we're not doing it this year.
Correct, and it doesn't make sense to replace those stairs without a holistic view or vision of the park. So we're just gonna do a temporary repair. to
So
make
what does
them
that
safe.
entail?
It's basically gonna be marine grade plywood, screwed down into the steps.
That's That's gonna look pretty.
We'll paint it.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's fine then.
The trick is it'll be safe.
Yeah.
So you're doing something now to make sure that we get the life out of them to get us to the phase 2.
That's just on the treads, because the side pieces are all done. They're level with the
They're
ground.
broken out and, yeah,
Yeah.
it's just the tread.
So you're confident that would be adequate?
I have assurances from staff that that will work. Yeah.
Okay, so no costs associated with that. Picnic tables deferred. Demolish entrance arch. When would that be?
We now have a backhoe that can reach it, so as soon as we get approval to go ahead.
Opening hours, changing from 10 to 11 o'clock closing. What was the thinking there?
The thinking there was, you know, liking or wanting to stay in the park, enjoying the scenery, enjoying the warm temperatures of the summer. There were comments from the committee that 10 o'clock was just a little shy of what they'd like.
Well, I think I don't see why we would disagree with that, but we'd like to hear what the neighbours say. So we need to poll all the neighbours for at least X radius, earshot, I suppose. Right?
And this tied into the extension. One of the reasons we wanted to extend the bylaw officers' hours was so that they could have time to go
Yeah.
and check to make sure
Yeah.
that everyone had left the park at 11 o'clock.
I would think it's important to communicate with the neighbors. I don't know whether it's you know, a yay or nay.
It's not, but it's
just
a consultation.
communication, a consultation.
Yeah, no, I mean that's just polite, if nothing else. But you know,
It is
somebody
a
may have a
village
violent
park.
reason why it's a good idea or a bad idea.
It is a village park. It
Yeah, but
serves the entire village.
people expect it to be closed at 10 today. So if we wanted to close at 11, would this be for all beach parks or just Lions Bay Beach Park?
The committee was just focused on Lions Bay.
Lions Bay, yeah. Okay, so it would be different hours. The reason that's of importance is, as we know, there's a challenge with the Kelvin Grove Beach Park parking, and how we are looking to handle that is to get some sort of commitment from the police to do an explicit patrol every night at time X, and I'd prefer it not to be at 11:30. I'd prefer it to be 10:30, so we know they're coming, and we can tell residents to expect the police coming. So Peter and I are meeting with the superintendent on the 4th, I believe it is, some such day,
I don't remember which day.
a day. It's in your calendar, I think.
So they're willing to come and police a parking lot every day, but they're not willing to set up a radar on the highway for speed
Well, they set up radar. They were there today.
every day?
Not every day.
Okay, so I mean that's
They're trying to address the speed on the highway. It's just very challenging.
Oh, I
And the
understand,
most
but
effective one I saw was when they actually pulled the car over in the middle of the road and blocked off one lane and issued the ticket right in plain view. They didn't try and pull it off in the side street somewhere. They just stood out there with flashing lights and issued the ticket while everybody else went by and saw what was going on. I thought that was pretty brilliant. I don't know
Well,
how safe it was,
that
but
is also on the
pretty brilliant.
agenda. Is
Yeah.
what are we actually trying to accomplish here? Are we trying to catch people, or are we trying to slow them down? And the answer is we're trying to slow them down. So we're going to be talking about that as well, in and amongst a whole bunch of other things on the list with our police. I mean, as Peter made the point, if somebody was drinking and smoking in the parking lot of Walmart in Squamish, the police would be there instantly. Well, same deal. I'm sorry they're far away. Maybe they should drive up and down some more. So that was all by way of saying closing at not unchanged for Kelvin Grove and Brunswick. Question mark.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we will, as an omnibus approval, be approving that if we accept the recommendation to approve these.
So, again, we're approving a Band-Aid until such time as we get a chance to look at phase 2 and figure out what's gonna happen.
Right.
That's essentially what my comment was initially.
That's
This is
right.
the first good plan we've had. It looks like it addresses the Band-Aid issue, and let's get that moving. In the meantime, we get a chance to plan a little further with this committee to see exactly what can be done.
Okay, so that does leave just one thing, and that's on the maintenance, the trash. The proposal was to get those fancy bins, the very deep bins with a very big trash bag. What's
That was one of the proposals that was identified. servicing those deep cans is difficult. You have to have specialized equipment to do that.
Our backhoe wouldn't handle it.
Our backhoe could handle it, but the committee's thought was, we had instituted weekly garbage pickup last summer, but it wasn't instituted until late August. So we didn't have a full summer season of weekly pickup. This year, weekly pickup will start on May 14th.
Weekend, so every weekend day, I think is what you're saying, right?
Garbage is picked up once every 2 weeks in the
Oh, I
village.
see. Oh, okay, yeah.
This will be picked up once every week, so every Friday they'll be picked up. Cans will be empty, ready to go for the weekend.
And are we talking about any more cans?
No, it was, see how that goes first.
Because I don't need to remind us that, on a Sunday, by the time Sunday comes around in August, there's this pile of trash as big as a car next to all the trash cans. Simply because beaches are busy. Okay, so there's no specific cost assigned for maintenance, that's just part
We're
of
just gonna monitor
operating
it
budget.
and then-
Okay, so that was that. So I'll just run through the options that we have here. The first is to approve those and instruct staff to make it happen. Options: place phase 2 on the 5-year financial plan discussion agenda. We'll do these all separately. In addition to the merits of the phase 2 recommendations, the key issue for the improvements is funding. The appropriate place for the discussion is in conjunction with the 5-year financial plan. So it would only be to place that discussion on the agenda, not approve putting it on the agenda. I mean, on the 5-year plan. Because the 5-year plan hasn't been set yet, correct?
No.
We've just approved this year's budget. Yeah, okay, fine. And then the third part is do nothing, which is make Jim have a conniption. While it's a potential option, not accepting the recommendations would blah, blah, blah.
I'm sure Councillor McLaughlin's gonna listen to the tape once it's posted.
Okay, yeah. He's known for doing that. So I'll ask for a motion to implement the Lions Bay Beach Park Advisory Committee's Phase 1 recommendations now. Motion? Is there a motion? Thanks. And a second? Any further discussion? Fred?
Well, I was just wondering if we agree to option 1, if we should make it subject to legal vetting of whether this can come from restricted water access fund.
The amount of money involved is $1,500 for the steps
That was in regard to the kayak rack.
and $20,000 for the kayak rack.
Yeah, that's a highly doubtful.
How do you know?
That's a push that envelope as hard as you can.
Yeah, it's worth a shot.
It's gonna split open. It's my opinion. So,
I wouldn't want to make the recommendation contingent on that because it's almost even I, optimistic as I am, don't think that's going to happen. I'll certainly be making the arguments.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, you're fine with so no friendly amendment or no amendment at all. Okay, so the motion stands as it is. Are we ready for that question? Is that ready to go?
Mm-hmm.
No, this big trees coming down, money being spent. All in favour and opposed? That carries. And so then I'll ask for a motion that council consider the phase 2 recommendation and make it part of the 5-year financial plan discussion. Now we haven't really considered the recommendations other than read the report, but I would suggest that's adequate coverage for now, seeing as we're going to just place this in the 5-year plan discussion. So unless anybody wants to go through these in any great detail now, I'll ask for a motion to slightly different motion, and that is that council place the phase 2 recommendations as part of the 5-year financial plan discussion. You got that?
Council place rather than consider?
I've got that council
Consider.
place the.
No, sorry, consider.
Consider
The phase 2 recommendation as part of the 5-year financial plan discussion. Just to tighten, because we didn't actually consider the recommendations very much. No.
This is designed to do what they said up front, and that is that the beach park is a point of pride in the village. And it's something that most residents are quite proud of, and a lot of residents use it on a regular basis. So this is a plan to integrate into the 5-year plan and say, fine, let's look at this and see what we can come up with, and let the committee know that yes, this looks good. We're willing to move on in the first part. And we need to go a little further with that money. We need to make sure it comes into the 5-year plan and how we're gonna make it fit. But certainly it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, well, I certainly look forward to discussing some of these items as part of the 5-year plan discussion. But so we need a motion on that, as stated. Norm, is that a motion? Thank you. And a second. Any discussion?
No.
Any further discussion? Ready for the question? All in favour? Opposed? That carries. So I mean that's a far less fraught one because it's just it's not actually kicking down the road. It's saying we're going to discuss it. Okay, so that's good. So that's you ready to go then? Have you finished yet?
Ready to go.
Okay.
No promises on finishing.
What?
Sorry.
Okay. Well, obviously people use the beach in the summer, not the winter. So
Correct.
there's somewhat of a
Urgency.
it's a soft target, but
Yeah.
you know, spring break is when it starts, right? So, and obviously we don't want to be doing
Meeting with staff tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. to start talking about.
I mean, not to belabor the point, but obviously, you know, you can't be asking people to move their beach towels so we can do some construction work.
Yeah.
So it's critical path almost, right? Okay, good. Okay, enough about that one. Let's go back to the agenda.
Memorial Committee.
Memorial Committee. That was the ad. Fred?
Sorry. Yeah, sorry this is kind of late. We only met on last Friday, and it was about 10 after 5. I finally took edits of the minutes of the meeting, incorporated them, so I don't really have an approved copy of it. But just to get a bit of a rundown on what was discussed, we've got, I was kind enough to come to the meeting and explain some of the income drawings to the members, and I think everybody is a little better for that bit of information. And we looked at funding for the thing with the Veterans Affairs grant, which looks promising. I think, Pam, you still have that application. Okay. And we decided that being a memorial, that the first thing we should focus on is the caring aspect of it. And this may sound a little mercenary, but I figured it's the best chance of getting the funding if we comply with the requirements of the grant. And so we've selected a subcommittee, a loose subcommittee to investigate designs and styles and all that sort of thing. And they'll report back to us at the next meeting. Oops, where did the timelines go? This is so fresh, I'm not familiar with everything, where it is in it. Yeah, we're hoping that the funding grant could be sent in before April 30th, as there's limited funds available. It was also suggested that the history of Remembrance Day services in Lions Bay included in that application. It would make it a lot more appealing to the Veterans Affairs to know that we're serious about honoring the veterans here. I think those are pretty much the highlights. We talked about the timing. I was pointing out that the Harvey tank will be done before the highway tank, so because of water conservation concerns for the summer. So it's going to be tight to get this thing in, but we don't have to have a full completed final project before Remembrance Day, but we can have a fair amount accomplished and be well on our way so that it's a respectful place before the 100th anniversary of the armistice, which would be essentially what we're firing at, no pun intended. Anyhow, I can forward to everybody the draft minutes, but I should forward them to the committee first.
Yeah, no, well, that was, we haven't even seen that on table, so let's not do that. Maybe we can bring that to the next meeting.
Can do.
So my issue, if issue is the right word, is this thing seems to be taking on a life of its own. Council hasn't yet seen any proposition.
Well,
Design, I see the suggestions flying back and forth, and I think the last was a full-size replica of the Taj Mahal with floodlighting, which I don't think is what we're looking for.
No. Well, the subcommittee is going to come up with the actual designs of the cairn, and then that will come to council for approval. And they will be working on sort of the site management of the whole thing. but we have to have a better feel for what the site will look like after the tank is in the ground, and we got a pretty good idea where the pipes are gonna be and all that. And so with the drawings that Nye put up on the screen, everybody had a good idea of what's out there. Up to this point, it had been sort of, you know, pie in the sky, sort of wonder what we can do with it, where I think we're getting a little more focused now that we've got Nye's input in working with AECOM, that some more ideas can start taking on some flesh, I guess it were.
Okay, I mean, the original terms of reference of the committee were to investigate the feasibility of war memorial, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Not a veterans memorial, but a war memorial. I think cenotaph was not used because cenotaph is an empty grave, so we don't have any dead Lions Bears who are in foreign fields, because Lions Bear was only founded in 1971. But so I think it's consensus that we're talking about where the highway tank is.
Right.
Because the tank will be demolished, there'll be a sort of a flat piece there. And there are other pieces, obviously, but...
Mm-hmm. Well, the tricky part is the top of the tank will be somewhat there. We can't put any weight on it. We can't put anything permanent over the piping and all that sort of stuff. So there are some design challenges, and it's going to take a bit of effort to figure this out so that we can have something that's decent, respectful, low maintenance. And unlike the beach park, which is sort of a fun place for people to gather, we're looking at this as a place where people can come and pay their respects in a more of a thoughtful...
Yeah, I mean, the other option is Wade Park. You know, I think the last thing I want is another park, because we're struggling to maintain the parks we have. So, you know, if it comes down to it, if we just need a location for a memorial stone, if that's all it is, I don't know, because, as I say, I may have exaggerated on the Taj Mahal thing, but there's some pretty grandiose ideas flying around. Garden paths and plantings, and Nye loves extra work, I know, but...
Well, we already do some maintenance at the site already. There's grass there that needs trimming. There's, you know, flowers, vegetation that we do maintenance on. So there is already some maintenance going on there. The area will be used. It will be at the end of the day, once it's finished, it will be a landscaped area with the tank there. So there will be maintenance happening.
There's no discussion of designating a park, though. Changing its land use designation.
It's not our land.
It's Modi land.
It's Modi land.
Yeah.
And you could argue it's essentially a park right now. People do go there.
Yeah, but parks are treated very differently
Yeah.
from any other kind of land, so we have
I don't
to...
think there's any suggestion that council dedicate it formally as a park. That would not be a good idea in any event. And I don't think we can, so
Yeah.
not our land.
Okay.
One advantage to it, or disadvantage, I look at it as both. If it was at the tank, you're very restricted in parking, so people have to walk to get there, which may be a good thing. Otherwise, the idea of doing it in an already existing park that does have some parking would make more sense because of the location, because it's on a hill. It's in a...
He's only saying that because he lives opposite Wade Park.
No, I
think,
don't.
I think the
Used to.
I
discussions
used to, yeah.
were that it could be tied in with the Remembrance Day ceremony at Broughton Hall. so
I think the
short
consensus, the
distance.
nod consensus, so we haven't resolved it,
Yeah.
but the consensus is here is good.
I think it has some advantages. Yeah, you're right. Proximity to the ceremony that's up here on a regular basis. Yeah, that's true too. So it's a question that needs to be asked, and yeah.
My only request is that we see some sort of concept sketch, description, something sooner rather than later, so that this doesn't head too far down a road that council's not expecting.
Mm-hmm. Well, the plan we have right now with the subcommittee, it's headed by the head of the Arts Council, and there's another Arts Council member on it. We have Trudy, who's involved in the remembrance, or organizes the remembrance service, and their plan is to come up with a design, bring it back to the memorial committee, and then we'll try to get some public feedback onto it, and depending on, we'll have about three or four designs if we can, and see what the public feedback comes in on it, and whatever the committee vets is sort of the best choice, send that off to council for your approval.
Okay, good. Yeah, I like that piece. So you're going to get some public input into the process. Yeah, I think people need to have had an opportunity to have had a say.
Yeah, we're also thinking of firing it off to the infrastructure committee as well, just in case there's some issues that some on the committee don't understand, on the memorial committee don't understand. Just have as many eyes looking at the thing, the better, I think, but in a short period of time.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. Okay, good. Thanks, Fred. That's short and sweet. Does that do it for you?
I think so.
So a motion to receive that report, and a second. Has to be you, Norm. No, you can't second your own report. All in favour? Opposed? That carries. And we've then moving on to the emergency service report on page 57. There's nothing earth-shattering in here. So I'll take a motion to receive the report. And a second. Any discussion? Anybody see anything they want to flag? I didn't. So all in favour of receipt and opposed? That carries. We've already had that, what used to be E2, so we'll now move on to item 9, that's resolutions, and this is housekeeping, oh no, sorry, that's something else, that was the last meeting. I'm thinking of the minutes. This is a resolution to direct staff to submit a UBCM Asset Management Planning Program grant application for an asset management investment plan and to provide overall grant management of the project. The report's on page 59 if you need to refresh your memory, but in the meantime I'll ask for a motion on that and a second. Is there any discussion? Pam, anything you want to tell us that we don't know already?
No, basically, I think we had discussed this during the budget process.
Yeah.
It was, we're hoping to get an asset management plan. We'll be sending out an RFP in a couple of weeks, and this is a grant that will provide 50% funding up to a maximum of $15,000. So it is a bit of a formality. They just want to show that council is committed to the pursuing of the grant.
Well, seeing as we were prepared to spend 30,000 before, I'm particularly enamored of this particular resolution. You can quote me on that. Okay, thanks. So that's any further discussion? Call the question. All in favour and opposed? That carries. Thanks. There's nothing under bylaws and correspondence. Who wants to take the inimitable Councillor McLaughlin's role in running us through correspondence? Thanks, Norm. 61.
Must have been chair.
Just throw me under the
You
bus.
glanced.
It's the seat. It's you. You sat there.
That's the seat, yeah.
I don't think you had a choice.
Always got a choice.
So I'll just also point out it's very useful to look at other communities' logos. Just not that I'm saying.
Naturally refreshed?
Well, for example, yeah. Okay, take it away.
And what do you want me to do here?
Okay, well, actually, I'll do it because I don't want to put you on the spot, and B, there's some things I want to do here. So I mentioned that I was at the Mayor's Caucus meeting in Squamish last week, and cannabis came up. There's the regulations are fairly forward. The federal regulations are more or less done. BC is now working out what they're going to do about it. The issue here is around revenue share, and this impacts Lions Bay as well. If indeed we currently have in our zoning that there's no cannabis retail. And on my agenda for discussion with Peter at our CAO CEO meeting is some of the stuff coming out of there. So I won't bore council with the rest of it, but I believe that our legislation is currently adequate. Many communities are not. They don't have the ability to say yes or no to cannabis. The mayors, there were about 60 mayors at this meeting. I would say 3/4 of them didn't want cannabis sales in their community, and the other quarter did, or have already. And those that did wanted to share part of the revenue, the excise revenue from the feds, the province. They wanted a third. Cut to the chase, which is fair.
So I would look at this, and when I read this, and I went through the correspondence that's in there on that, it plunked a few guitar strings with me and said, I remember conversations, discussions around, okay, are we going to allow cannabis to be sold in the village? And the reaction we got wasn't exactly a really good one. Okay, we had lots of people saying because we didn't want it was being sold at the store because it was too close to proximity of kids and a public area and stuff like that. And you look at the layout of Lions Bay and you think, well, yeah, I don't know where you would do it to satisfy people's concerns. Having said that, everybody's jumping on the bandwagon because they see free money coming in the door. And that's what I'm looking at, and I'm thinking, I don't know that I want that to, I don't think I want the village painted with that label, but I don't know what everybody else thinks, because, you know, that might just be my ex-police background talking, I don't know.
Well, so, I mean, Peter, without putting you on the spot and committing you to it, our current zoning, is it zoning?
Mhm.
Yeah, says no cannabis retail.
That's right.
Yeah. So I'll just run through the notes that I took. The local government can stipulate as part of a public process. Next to CAO, talk to our legal advisor whether current bylaws prohibit cannabis or allowable use. So yes, Peter has said the current bylaws do prohibit cannabis retail, and if necessary, do we need a business regulation bylaw? The issue is that the actual retail that the province will stipulate is it's going to be sold through BC liquor stores. Now we have one. But it's not a primary. It's not a liquor primary. It's a rural. What is it called?
I forget the name.
Rural outlet, something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that.
So I think that it's only through liquor primary outlets, meaning actual name brand BC liquor stores.
Not sure.
Not sure. But anyway, for now, I believe we're covered until such time as a future Lions Bay decides they do want cannabis retail. But so that's what these people are going about. A lot of these people, quite a few of them were at the meeting, don't have any regulation at all. And if somebody came in now, it would be a non-conforming allowed use, even if they change the zoning tomorrow. So some people are running worried. Okay, so that's what that's all about. They announced the grant recipients for the abandoned boats program. I still don't know who they are. This was just the announcement that they're going to announce it. So I think no action there. This is all people getting the LGMA ducks in a row. It has been suggested that for LG, what is it? I never get it right. Lower Mainland Government, Local Government Association. That Lions Bay presents its average speed over distance proposition. The reason that even came up, I presented that our standard presentation to Squamish Council, and the chair of the Lower Mainland LGA is a Squamish councillor, and she asked that I consider that. When's the deadline? I'm proposing to just let it slide unless she asks me again.
Not sure.
Because I'd need a council resolution for that, right?
To submit?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it would be nice. So I'm not going to ask for that now, but that's what this is all about. So
I think if you want to do that, you should ask for that now. So I'm not sure what the
just as a
deadline is.
holding, just in case.
Mhm.
Okay, well then I will ask for council's forbearance on that. As you know, with council's approval and resolution, we are propounding, Norm, this is for you really, another speed control measure on the highway, specifically point-to-point or average speed over distance technology. It's gaining good traction. I could probably just take this opportunity to report to council that it's starting to work. The Solicitor General, Minister Farnsworth, has asked that the Cowichan Valley Regional District and the Capital Regional District demonstrate public support for this on the Malahat. It's another way of kicking the can down the road, but lo and behold, they actually went and their regional district, the highway, the Malahat is a regional highway, not a provincial highway. So they have some authority on that, and they funded a public outreach campaign, which is now running, mostly based on the website. Also, if you listen to CBC in the morning, you will hear that this is being talked about more and more and more and more. It's coming. So the minister I think you saw that they are going to change red light cameras to what they call speed on green. So not only is it going to measure when you go through the red light camera, it's actually going to measure your speed when the camera is green, when the light is green. That requires a major change in legislation because it means that the car gets the ticket, not the driver, because there's no camera involved there. It's just speed detection. It is in fact very close to speed radar. That's not going to fly with the public very well, the speed on green thing using red light cameras. Although there is a camera, but it's license plate based, not driver based. So it's additional ammunition for this point-to-point average speed over distance thing, which is applies to everybody. It's not a gotcha. It's all that good stuff.
But they're also piloting other projects on Sea Skies targeted, the Coquihall's targeted, and the Malahat's targeted, okay? And so the thing is that if we want, my personal opinion is what we're talking about here, average speed, not gonna fly. Okay, because it doesn't affect, it affects us in the village, but if you say destination Squamish from Vancouver, and what's your average speed through there, well, we have a speed restriction zone right through the village that is our major problem in this area. And it doesn't behoove us at all to support that kind of thing, because I don't think it's gonna be, our best option is radar or something that catches speeders as they're coming into the village and as they're exiting the village.
Okay, let's not get, so council's already approved it.
Yeah,
So now what I'm going to be asking for is approval to present it to the Lower Mainland LGA. Why? Because we actually do need buy-in. The public needs to buy this in. So this is a great opportunity to get low. So the average speed zone would only be through Lions Bay. It wouldn't be from Horseshoe Bay to Squamish. It would only be in our new 70, because we need people to drive that 70. Any faster is no good. It works in multi-speed zones, but let's not get too ahead of ourselves. So the Ministry of Transport's on this. They're working on it. They're going and seeing how it works in Scotland and Australia and Norway and Holland. It's coming, but if it's not done right, it's not going to happen here, and we want it here for two reasons. We want to slow people down so that our fire department's not out servicing the highway using taxpayer dollars, because the EMBC payments minuscule, pays for the gas, and we need motorcycles to slow down. It's too noisy. So that's why we want people to slow down here, not the Malahat and not the Coquihalla. So I would like to, is it appropriate for me to make the motion?
Sure.
I would move that that the mayor, that's me, is authorized to submit for consideration for the LMLGA agenda our average speed over distance proposition presentation. Is that a second? Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? That's one. Is it? No, I mean,
No, I'm,
you're thinking.
I'm right where he is right now, thinking about that.
This is not a question of whether we propound that. That's been decided. This was only, can we present it to the LGMA or whatever.
I don't see any problem with presenting it.
Okay.
I'm
You-
worried about, well, it's always. a good
Discussion's
idea.
over. It's a vote. Is that a yes?
Yes or no?
That's a no. Okay, Councillor Hughes opposed. The motion passes. And thank you for that. So we'll move on. It'll be fine. Trust me. So the mobility pricing dudes are in phase 2. I participate on this committee. It's a joint TransLink board Mayor's Council committee, and I can tell you what the answer will be. It'll be tolling bridges, because anything else is not going to fly in Lions Bay. I mean, in the Lower Mainland. So they've been talking about mileage based. They've been talking about time of day based. It's going to be tolling bridges, and it's going to take years and years and years before that happens. But that's probably, if it ever happens, that's going to be their mobility pricing, congestion charge stuff. But if you want to participate in the second phase of public engagement, there it is. This is the from Kathy Peters, the usual thing, so I propose nothing there. She's inundating us with information that doesn't seem to change from week to week. So that moves us to page 84 of correspondence. No, that's the same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing. I'm on page 89 now, and now I'm on page 91.
Yep.
Which is a letter from the Minister of State for Childcare. We're going to do this in an omnibus resolution to receive. This UBCM endeavour update on the working group on responsible conduct, I had the pleasure of sitting through that at great length at the last UBCM. It was useful information. Seems to me, quite frankly, that there's better things to be spending our time on, but that's what they're spending their time on. And again, another letter from our MP that they're still going to announce the funding recipients for the abandoned boat. This was a letter from Maple Ridge to the Minister of Finance asking for the MSP premium not to be put onto employers. What do we think about that? Should we have the same position?
Sorry.
The MSP premium?
Yes,
Because starting next year, we're going to be paying it.
yes, it is, and it will go up. It'll probably double what we pay for MSP
And what is
now.
that? Round
It'll
numbers.
go around 5,000 up to 10,000.
Yeah,
It's
so
preliminary, but
not-
there will be a.
Not insignificant.
We don't have the exact numbers yet.
So
but-
should we write a letter similar to Maple Ridge? It's everybody's writing these.
Guess you could. I don't know if it'll make any difference. but we
No,
could,
I think
yeah.
it will make a
Yeah.
difference. I think
Yeah,
people will
there's
listen.
definitely an impact on all business, because basically the business now is covering the cost of all the MSP, not just for our own employees. Like, it's being split now, the cost between just businesses.
Okay, so as part of accepting this correspondence, a resolution for, a directive for the mayor to respond. Okay. It will make a difference. They listen. Okay, now we move into the public correspondence section.
Sorry, just before we go, it didn't come in time for this agenda, but there was correspondence. I just thought I'd just bring it to your attention. You may have received it directly already. Council's meeting coming up April 28th. Just if you're interested in going, it's a Saturday at the Westin in Richmond, and just if you want to save the date, then
It's well worth doing. I sent out invitations. Fred, you've already accepted, I believe. I'm going
What day is it?
Saturday the 24th.
28th.
28th. It's worthwhile. Will you be away?
Yep.
Do you want to come? Or do you want to come? Or do you both want to come? That's a pass. It's a metro thing. It's more for electeds.
You don't
Okay.
know what to do with the day off anyhow, do you?
Oh no, that's the second last day of the work week for him. He's got to catch up. Okay, so Mooring Boys at Calvin Grove. This hasn't been responded to.
Yeah, it has. I responded.
Not the second time around. So there's questions here. So do you mean you're trying to replicate what the City of Vancouver does? So it needs another response. So you want to take that one?
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Could I point out some factual errors in the letters? For example, in the third paragraph, it's got a great example, is Plumper Cove on Keats Island. It says no overnighters unless a fee is paid. Well, that's not true. We have our boat periodically in
Yeah.
Plumper Cove anyhow, even though they've got a whole slew of mooring buoys. And,
It's only to go ashore that you pay.
to
camp.
you row your dinghy.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. The other thing in her first letter said, we were moored beside an unoccupied buoy one afternoon when a sailboat under power came charging up and the owners demanded we leave immediately. And I'm kind of curious about this because this could be an educational piece for her, because if she was moored beside an unoccupied buoy, does that mean she was anchored beside it? Well, she would have said anchored. But if she's moored next to a buoy, does that mean she tied up to someone else's private buoy, which is not permitted? And if she's too close to another buoy, she's violating the Transport Canada's regulations that you can't interfere with the swing of another boat
Yeah,
on a
yeah.
mooring buoy. So I don't know the tone of the sailboater who came charging up, but they had every right to chase her off of that spot, because you cannot anchor or moor a boat near another mooring buoy.
No. That does actually beg the question, I'm glad you brought that up, Fred. 3 or 4 anchor buoys there, those are all going to have to leave, right? If they're within the W2 zone. Are they?
I don't know.
Okay. I would suggest that in your response, I don't think your average unwashed citizen understands what a license of occupation means or implies. So it would be useful probably to tell her, nobody's going to be allowed to moor there in the W2 zone anyway, which is point to point, except one temporary use permit, which she refers to, and that will be for one further summer.
Or on an emergency basis.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, so all the other stuff.
An emergency isn't, I need a quick swim.
No,
No, it's
No.
defined actually.
it's defined here. Okay.
Unfortunately, and I agree with Fred, and I agree with pretty much everything. Unfortunately, the regulation that governs that is federal, and it's every person's right to have a buoy if they want to put one down. There are regulations that have to be followed, but the reality is if someone does put one down, just because they don't live in the village doesn't mean they can't put one down.
No, we're within our rights to zone as we have.
Oh, no, of course, yeah.
To-
that's
to
fine.
restrict the
zone-
use of the
and
buoy
if it's zoned otherwise, that's a whole different story. I'm just saying that anywhere in Canada, on a body of water, you can go and put a mooring buoy down. I was walking in a park on Gabriel the other day and looked out and right in one of the major channels, there's a mooring buoy right in the middle of it, and I'm thinking, that doesn't make any sense. It looks like a big, I mean, it's a private mooring buoy. It looks like a private mooring buoy. I know I own one. And I couldn't get out to it. And next time I go by there with my boat, I will go out there and have a look and see if it is. But it's right in the channel. Like, that makes no sense at all.
Well, you can't put it in navigation channels.
Oh, no, it's just barely off to the side.
Well, if the guy wants to be in the middle of the channel,
Yeah.
lose his chain, that's his business. So, you've got that? You're going to respond?
Yeah.
Good. So the next one is regarding porta potties to be set up to CC Beach, but I don't know what CC Beach is.
CCB?
Maybe she meant DB. Beach?
You think? Okay. Yeah. So I mean, the answer I think is I believe policy exists on this. That is not a maintained or designated beach park of Lions Bays. Correct? The clothing optional area.
No, it's not. It's not a designated park.
It's actually CN property.
No, it would be foreshore.
And or foreshore.
Yeah, we're talking about below the
this
below
beach
the
here?
natural boundary of the sea.
Is this here?
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's closer than that.
No,
It's
this is-
before.
this is
no,
right for the
no,
beach.
no. You're as the mayor points at the map, a little bit too far north.
Yeah.
Should be right in here. This is where the area is, and the trail that comes out from, if you walk along the rail line, you come out right around here. If you go left, so to the end of the bay, then that is where the clothing optional area is. If you go to the right, we're trying to designate people to go left or right from this point where the trail comes out, sort of mid or 2/3 of the way down the beach of Alberta Bay, not around the end of the bay.
Okay, well, I have never ever seen people, well, I have seen people there, but I had always assumed that they were not supposed to be there. That's the main beach. There's no natural boundary.
Well, there's some rocks that outcrop from the point that I alluded to, and
Okay,
beyond
well,
those
that's-
rock outcrop is on the other side is where clothing optional area is, as I have been led to believe by those who have advised me.
Okay, well, that's neither here nor there. We'll decide where the boundary of the clothing is, but the question here is, can we put some porta potties up?
Just a couple of points with respect to porta potties. I've a great deal of experience with porta potties in West Van. We use them quite often for special events, etc. You need to have a very flat area to put them on. You need to have access by a pumper truck. So you wouldn't be able to put it further down the beach. It would have to be close to the access point. So you would be directing people from that area, the clothing optional area, into the main part of the beach. The other problem with porta potties is they're very easy to tip over and they're prone to vandalism. And in the heat of the summer, there is an odor.
Yeah, although the reality is, people are then going to ablute in the water or on the beach. how about putting them up on the road, the highway? If what's council's thinking of this? I mean, right now our policy is to pretend the beach doesn't exist, and so if you want to go there, you're on your own.
Well, I have some sympathies to the residents there that I would find it difficult having people coming knocking on my door wanting me to use the facilities constantly. On the other hand, deep down inside, I really don't want to encourage that kind of behavior. So I don't want to offer them anything. And I would rather say, well, what was that thing we just saw the other day? It was somebody had these shirts made up. Welcome to such and or other. Now beat it.
Yeah. Now leave. Yeah.
I mean,
Well, we could stipulate the marine regulations, say they have to be 2 miles offshore before they're allowed to drain their tanks. Simple as that.
I think it's a different tank, but yeah.
well, look at the natural, geography of that little bay there. It's a much more protected area than, say, right down where we just bought that lot. It'd be an excellent place to put a desalination plant pretty close to shore.
Belongs to the railway.
Oh, you mean they're noisy?
So, I mean, Fred's actually encapsulated, do we want to... People are going to come anyway.
But we don't have to invite them.
We certainly don't have to invite them. We're trying to... I mean, as you very well know, the issue is that people encroach from the clothing optional area to in front of these properties here now. And so we're hearing that increasingly, that, people can't come visiting because there's nudes in front of you. So the question is, the issue is they're coming anyway.
So, we represent our constituents, we represent the people in the village, the voters in the village, okay? So my first question is, okay, so how many of the people in the village are using this beach right now?
Let's assume none.
I'd say it's...
I think you can assume none.
Yeah, exactly. So the thing is that, yes, it's on a public ocean, but it's adjacent to a beach that's populated with children and people and stuff like that. People's homes are there, and so it becomes an issue of public nuisance. And
No, people are coming anyway, and we can't get rid of them. We have gone through that whole thing. The police cannot do anything. They're allowed. So what do we pretend they're not there and let them piss in the bush and worse?
no, we need to come up with an alternative.
Okay, so that's the question.
Yeah, and I don't mean to come across as not providing facilities. I just think porta potties are the wrong way to go.
I hear you.
If we're going to provide a facility, it would need to be something along the lines of a built composting toilet or something along those lines.
And nobody is going to want porta potties anywhere near their house, so it would have to be away. So it's either that. Do you have to service composting toilets?
Yeah, but I believe they don't need to be factored out. I think it's just chemical and nutrients.
The reason I'm saying that is that I can twist some arms to get some funding.
Mm.
But the question is, would you want it there on the beach? Because people are coming anyway. So this is a little bit of a public health issue for our residents' convenience. So that they're not dealing with smell and people knocking on their door asking to use the toilet, which I don't know how often it happens, but I certainly hear of it regularly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even if it's only 1 in 100 people doing it, there's 100, 200 people going there on a weekend now.
At the junction of the CN Trail and the beach, somewhere along there,
But of a collection box.
upland,
So well away from houses, today's
and
houses,
away from the foreshore.
and away from the foreshore. Okay, well that's nothing that we can decide now because that's gonna. What are those things? 50 grand.
I don't know. I'd have to do research.
But we're not going to spend a penny of our money on it. So, as far as this request,
What about in between the CN right away and the highway? Like where the road comes down and we have that
sort of here.
a little bit of a pull out there.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But nobody's going to walk from here to there if they
Well,
feel the urge. But they might do it on their way back.
Or around.
Yeah, I don't know.
lots of beaches where you gotta walk.
You got to
a ways
walk back
get
to the toilet.
facilities.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that would be my preference, is to,
if you make it too convenient, you're just gonna encourage people. Maybe.
there's a pad right there, and I don't know, it's sort of, I think it says loading zone, right? No?
I believe it says fire zone.
No, fire zone's further down the hill. The other part says like something like 15-minute loading zone.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's not the bus stop.
Well, I wonder if you could approach the provincial government and get them to donate a composting toilet, much to where you're describing, for use for people with sort of an emergency need on the highway, and then these other folks can use it as they need to. But it wouldn't be our money, it would be provincial government providing a service for travelers. Again, composting one.
Does that interpretive center just up the highway, does that have facilities?
I don't think it does.
No.
The Pelot at Windy Point?
It doesn't.
No, I don't think so.
No.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Nor does the one by Horseshoe Bay just coming over the
On
blocks.
Eagle Ridge.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think we're going to solve this problem now. So maybe the response to the resident is it's a bigger issue than can be solved, but we don't consider porta potties to be a solution, because you're right, they'll get knocked out by who knows which miscreant. It does actually. There's another issue around composting toilets, and that's on the hiking trails, because that's in our watershed. And so that's part of this protocol that Peter and I have to work out, is do we actually support installation of composting toilets on the Lions Trail, Binkert Trail? Because you know very well that people are abluting in our watershed right now, so why not provide them toilets? So it's all part of that same discussion. Okay, so let's defer a decision on that one, but Peter will, who's going to make this reply here?
I'll send something.
Okay, thanks. Okay. The next one is correspondence on the DPA situation, so we're not going to discuss that here, other than to, you have a standard response to people who provide feedback.
Standard response.
But you respond.
Try to respond to address their. I haven't responded to Mr. Blackwell. He spoke personally with Pierre Freely, and this is his take on
Okay.
it. So I don't really have anything to say that Pierre wouldn't have said, I don't think, on most of these, other than with respect to. Well, yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, okay, well, so you'll respond. The one thing that I found interesting on this one was the geothermal drilling. So I've seen 2 such installations in Lions Bay already, and it made quite a mess. And that's something we probably want to have something to say about. Anyway, so that's on your desk, Peter. The next one is speaking about miscreants, a letter from some miscreants. I think we've discussed that enough.
Well, I would like to add something, and we've talked about this before, so I don't think it's a surprise. But it's an unfortunate incident that happened, okay? But the thing is that I don't know that it was dealt with adequately from the point of view of teaching children what they can and cannot do. I don't know anything about other than what I see from time to time. So I'm assuming when I see this that it sounds like the parents have gotten involved and the kids have written a letter. I'm wondering if mom and dad haven't paid for the repair to the field as opposed to having the kids do public service time to help refurbish the field.
So where it sits is that the school district is assessing what needs to be done.
Okay.
I think they've determined that there is no damage to the irrigation system.
Okay.
However, they're determining what needs to be done in respect of other things. So I think that there's a little bit of, I've requested a little bit more detail
Okay.
in terms of that correspondence. And ultimately, those costs for which they're responsible, these boys will be handed the bill and expected to pay it. And that was the agreement that they undertook at the time that they were notified that, hey, this is a problem. What are you going to do? And they agreed to step up to the plate and cover those costs. So the public apology is to be followed up with a financial consequence. We're just in the process of
Okay.
determining what that financial consequence is.
That
going
was
to
the
be.
question I had. I
Yeah.
didn't know whether there was actually
Yeah.
a financial consequence to
They,
it. whether
I
it's
think
just-
there was perhaps a thought process that perhaps they thought maybe they can just
Yeah.
go to the school and tamp down some sod and make it look nice, but we let them know that that's not going to cut it.
Yeah,
So
okay.
yeah, we'll keep pursuing it to the bitter end.
I'll take all my big blue writing off this page then.
Okay, so that's that. The next is 2 letters from residents down at the Kelvin Grove parking lot. What I'd suggest is that I respond to this as I have been doing for a long time, with the indication that we'll do something about it. The one thing is I want to manage expectations. We will not have bylaw enforcement for spring break, which is now. But I think I can handle this in a way that doesn't generate more. So if that's everybody's accepted, I'll respond in a dual letter. The next one is from Louis Peterson, and that I've already responded to, as you can see. I just did want to point out that we didn't redact this address here, nor here. So
Well, actually, there's nothing wrong with the address being there. It's emails and telephone numbers. Resident addresses are.
okay, well, I think we should redact addresses. We always have. So, although I must say that in some council's minutes, I see you have to give your address. Not that you're required to be a resident to address council, but okay, just consistency. So the Louis one I've taken care of. Everybody good with that? This is the longest correspondence section I can remember for a while. The next one from Mr. Gansky. Peter?
Sorry, there's actually, isn't there 2 separate things going on with Louis? Oh no, sorry.
Oh, there was. No, no, this
that
was, yeah, the other one was
that correspondence didn't
community
make it
ethos thing. Yeah. But that was to
was a radon.
yeah, but that wasn't to council. So it's not in
Okay,
correspondence.
Sorry.
Okay, so the next one is a DP thing, so that's there, and the next one is a DP thing from John Povell. So that's all as part of the public feedback process, and
Yep.
we will see developments in that as time moves on. Okay, so can I have a motion to receive correspondence and react as decided? Thanks, and a second on that. Any further discussion? All in favour? Opposed? That carries. There's no new business, and so now we move to the public questions and comments period. Love to hear some comments. 2 minutes on any topic. No, sorry, any topic in this meeting. The other one is a free-for-all. This one is a restricted.
I didn't realize that, Carl, that we couldn't bring up things which hadn't been discussed in this meeting. Is it possible to bring up something?
Well,
else?
that was the time for that was at the beginning.
I know, I missed that.
Okay, fair enough. 2 minutes.
Thank you. I'm wondering whether there's any update with the 12 dogs living at 100 Lonsdale Avenue. We were here 6 weeks ago, and there was going to be some action. We haven't heard anything yet, and I was wondering whether there has been.
You've heard nothing.
Nothing from the village.
Okay, you'll hear it now. What can you tell us?
I can't really tell you a heck of a lot. I have corresponded with the tenants, and I have let them know about certain complaints about barking dogs that we have received, and that they must comply. And I've also requested a time frame within which they will comply with our bylaws. So I expect to follow up with that shortly, and I continue to research other matters in terms of enforcement. So
Okay, thanks.
That's-
Requested a timeline or stipulated a timeline?
I requested a timeline with respect to sorry.
Compliance with the bylaw.
Yeah, I had hoped that I was going to hear back today as
Right.
to when that compliance was going to be achieved. I did not. So
I can tell you, so we discussed this in closed because it's a privacy issue, because it involves identifiable individuals, and we gave some fairly, not stringent, not strict, pointed marching orders to staff. So it is being addressed. We can't talk about it, the particulars, because it's a privacy issue. I will say that the issue is not the barking dogs, it's the number of dogs. There's nothing in our bylaw that prohibits dogs from barking. But there is...
well, there is.
There is.
but they're going to bark. But I know there's a continual barking. I understand all that stuff. So our bylaws will be enforced. We're also trying to do it the Lions Bay way, which is slightly a humanistic way. But in the end, at this stage, all I can say is we ask for your patience.
Okay, so
We're well aware that we need to enforce the bylaw.
Okay, it has been since December the 8th, when Peter was first notified. We're going on just about 3.5 months now.
Yeah.
Can you tell me whether there's been any tickets issued to them?
A written notification or?
Oh, they've had written notification. There have not been any tickets issued at this point in time.
Why is that?
There simply hasn't been, and it's not within the parameters of discussions that I've had and that I can't really get into. So
But why can't you give them tickets, Peter? It becomes ammunition.
There's no repercussions for them for not complying, so we're
no,
just
there
wondering.
will be tickets issued if there isn't compliance within a certain time frame. So
But I got a ticket last summer, walking along the street for not having identification on my body by the bylaw officer.
Personal identification.
For not having personal identification.
So wearing your shirts and thongs as well, or didn't
Walking
care as
up-
well. Anyway,
Yeah.
all we're
Walking-
saying is that some bylaws are enforced readily and instantaneously, and fines are associated, and you pay the fines. We now have 10 families that actually have signed a petition. It's not just us. Yes, we're here at the face of it, but we do have 10 families in that area that have all signed this petition saying we are distressed by this. It's a problem, not just for us. We're not just whiners. There's 10 families living.
Okay, well, I'll go out on a limb and say that council gave staff a deadline beyond which the bylaw will be enforced on a daily basis. What we're doing is talking about somebody moving, as you know. So it's
But the dogs just
The
moving.
dogs can go, I don't have a.
okay. We're not going to get into the details of how they're going to comply with the bylaw. That's the privacy part of it. So we're aware. We have cut them some slack because it's Lions Bay, not Surrey. I don't know if they're very tough in Surrey. Maybe they cut people slack in Surrey too.
3.5 months, Carl.
Yeah, I recognise that it's now approaching the limits of patience. So the message, that part of the message, is very well understood.
I
And
have a
so,
letter from my contractor telling me that, under the terms of my contract, I'm being charged a delay claim because when the dogs are outside barking, the carpenters drop their tools and they leave. When the dogs are inside the house, the guys can't even think on the site. I measured it from my deck, 40 feet away when the dogs were inside, it was 70 decibels. A train is 110. I'm
and it's
being
logarithmic. Yeah, so, okay.
charged. It's a financial implication now, it's a comfort implication, and I just don't understand why it's taken 3.5 months. It's in the bylaws, it's not being enforced, there's no tickets, and you give tickets for everything else.
Okay, I'll tell you what we will do. We'll put it on the agenda of closed, and we'll discuss it and come up with a resolution.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, so that was slightly outside procedure, but in Lions Bay we go outside procedure.
No, we appreciate it. Absolutely, we appreciate it. This isn't easy for anybody,
No.
I understand.
We understand.
But
Okay, thanks. So I will now ask for a motion to close the council meeting to the public under 91A, C, I, and 92B sections of the community charter,
And F.
but we didn't put that in the agenda.
They just asked us.
Oh, I see.
You just said we're
Oh, so,
going to.
so we're going to need a motion to, is it amend the agenda?
Sure.
Additional ground. So we'll have that motion, unless you don't want to discuss it. I'm quite happy not to. And a second? This needs to be unanimous? Yeah, so we're going to add F. And with that, I will declare this meeting closed. Okay, we're returning from closed session. The time is 11:40 p.m. Motions were duly passed to extend the time of the meeting to 11:45. So we're just there. 3 items to report out from the closed meeting. First is that Jay Barber was appointed to the Trees, Views and Landscapes Committee to replace Tony Clayton, effective immediately. The second item to report out is that the following persons were appointed to the Curly Stewart Memorial Trust Fund Award Committee.
Lauren Cuthbertson, Carol Conlon, Rose Dudley, and Myra Newton.
With the chair being the mayor. Thank you. And finally, reporting out that the Village of Lions Bay Council authorized the Chief Administrative Officer and his designated exempt management staff as bargaining representatives acting on behalf of the municipality to enter into negotiations to renew the 2012 to 2015 collective agreement with representatives of QP Local 389, with any tentative agreement negotiated being subject to ratification by the Village of Lions Bay Council. That is the items to be reported out. I'll now take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Special meeting.
Special meeting.
Yeah.
We also resolved, that was a 4th item to report out, resolved to hold a special meeting 7 o'clock Tuesday,
April 3rd.
April 3rd. These items that we deferred from the regular agenda were resolved in closed. Yes, they were,
Yeah.
and are simply being reported on. So there's no need for them in the open agenda, in fact. Because we moved them.
The other thing, well, the Curly Stewart, there was a terms of reference was in the.
There was a terms of reference.
Yeah.
So that's why we moved that to the end. So we're not going to adjourn just yet. Luckily, I didn't call the question. So we've appointed the members of the committee in closed, but we now need to adopt the terms of reference. And the terms of reference are to be found on page 33. Seeing as we've all read them. Peter, you want to just give us a quick heads up on what this was about? Well, I can, because I helped write them. So essentially we've reduced the administrative burden of applying for the award. We've made the information gathered that's in the forms more meaningful. We've essentially made this a self-driven thing, saying why you think you should get it, and we corroborate some of the data you provide. The only other thing was we changed a little bit about the criteria. So it was started with world citizenship, then it was anything to do with academic, athletic, arts and personal achievement, and then future plans, and then some other requirements. So we just made it a little bit more realistic. So, I mean, you've all read them. So can I ask for a motion to adopt those terms of reference? I see a motion and a second. Any discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? That carries. Okay, so let's just check. What else did we defer to the end of the meeting?
That's the Trees, Views and Landscapes Committee appointment.
Okay, fine. So we've done that in closed and we reported that out.
You deferred entirely your report?
Yeah, that's I just tabled that at approval of the motion of the agenda. Okay, so now we're ready and we're still within the time. Motion to adjourn and a second. All in favor? Opposed? That carries. Meeting adjourned.
I had one thing, not for the meeting.